They can't miss.
All right, welcome to Gatekeepers, where we're already hot under the collar. Well, one of us is. I don't care. I'm not invested in it that way. But we are going to tonight to talk about how to decommify or Decommify third edition. And what I mean by that is take the commie crap out of third edition. And that's easy. And it really, you can play it as is without any other modification if that's all you want to do. Although most of us want to do more than that. And the guy down there wants to just burn the book.
Light it on fire, yeah.
Yeah.
If I didn't pay for it, I would, but I don't burn books that I paid for.
Yeah. So
if I sent you a copy of that book that you did not pay for, would you burn it?
Absolutely. I'll do it on stream for you, too.
No, fair enough.
all right. Let me.
Oh, God.
I wrote down.
Everything from this company should be burned.
I don't know about everything.
It should be ignored. Hello, Hungry Ewok. Thank you for joining us. You're getting more. Good deal. Good deal. All right. So, the reason I came up with this is because I was thinking about it all day, and I wasn't sure what topic I was going to do, but I wanted to make sure we had a Gatekeepers tonight, and since this was on my mind
Thank you.
You're welcome. Even though you're mad at me.
No, I'm mad at your dumb opinion.
Yeah, well, everybody's opinions are dumb to other people. So the good thing is it's just an opinion.
It can be corrected.
And opinions are like assholes.
Hello, Bruce and Darren. And is there a way to pronounce this dude's name without sounding like you just CBKPLYY?
Oh, I just call him CBK Ply.
CBK Ply. I'm just.
I mean, if that's wrong, that's what I've been calling.
I'm just shouting off all the letters in the alphabet.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Those are numbers.
Look, it was all I had with me.
For a second, I thought it disappeared to Sesame Street. Son of a bitch.
CBK Ply. You are correct. All right, so
keep saying that.
Yeah. So when I played third edition for its entire run, third and 3.5, and got a little burnt toward the end. Hello, Crafty. And dropped it for other games for a while. And then, lo and behold, somehow the universe brought Max into my sphere of listening and watching.
Regretting that, aren't you?
No. And he said something that actually rings very, very true to me, which was third edition is commie role-playing. And I never thought that. But after he said it, I was like, oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. And because for a while before that, I had been just saying, I had been thinking to myself about how can a halfling have a 20 strength or be a paladin? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And then when he said that, it kind of gelled. That for one reason or another, the third edition creators decided that all sentient races have an equal amount of variability and an equal amount of their stats can have the same broad range as humans. And I would say that that's kind of dumb, considering some of them are no bigger than children. They never get bigger than children. And some, you could have larger races, and they should arguably have, all these races should have different ranges to some degree. And we had that in first and second edition. And to a lesser, I'm not sure about old D&D if they limited your stats or not, but you did have to qualify for other races, or they were kind of consolation prizes if you rolled like poop. Because if you rolled your stats 3d6 in order and you ended up like a 5 strength, well, probably want to play a halfling because it kind of fit. And There are things about third edition that I like, and I think that, and I was thinking, how could you fix it so that it could be more like old editions without necessarily playing if you don't want to? And I think you could easily bring the old race class stat restrictions back in third edition without really ruining the game. You probably make it better.
Well, anything that gives a game feel or flavor makes it better, and that's one of the things that this book did. Is it took away the feel, the flavor of what Dungeons and Dragons was, and one of its core designs. I'm not trying to change the topic here, but one of the core design concepts of this version of Dungeons and Dragons from WotC, written, documented, as in we need to end this, was essentially they didn't want people saying, I play Dragonlance, I play Forgotten Realms, I play Dark Sun, they want people to say, I play Dungeons and Dragons, and the only way to do that in their mind was to homogenize it all, and this was the big thing. And that whole commie role-playing thing came directly from the first time I read through this. I was trying to look for it right here. Maybe it's in the Dungeon Master Guide, but I was looking at the choosing the race, but it was about this early in the book when it said something to the effect of, your choice of race does not affect the class you can play or something like that. It says it between the lines here, but I'm not seeing the actual words of it. I literally took the book. Is this my 301? Yeah, it's my 301. So it's literally this one. And I went like that. So this is fucking commie role playing. When
third edition was being introduced, they had, there was Gen Con, and there was a Wizards, big Wizards of the Coast thing at Gen Con. And on the podium, the guy said, he had a list of things, and we had read them before. You want a dwarf wizard? You can do that. And there was like the crowd went, rah! And I'm like, ah.
The Hero Builder Guide, which tells you how to min-max, is what actually got me to stop playing this game ever again. When I read through that, when it taught you how to min-max everything, what feats you should take, what skills you should take, how to get that perfect dwarven wizard, I was like, no, I'm out. If that's how this game is going to be played now, I'm out.
Yeah, the homogenization of everything is really what was the downfall. Regardless of what you think about the other bits, no Thaco and all that other stuff, those are other sacred cows. But
that only bothered me in terms of piling on.
Yeah.
I was actually more butthurt over saving throws. I hate reflex.
Than Thaco.
Yeah.
But not the homogenization part is the thing.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you corrected that, it would still, maybe it won't feel like D&D to you, but it would be better.
You'd have to get rid of you have to bring back race class limitations.
Yep.
You'd have to get rid of 0th level spells. You'd have to bring back character classes / kits. Forget these stupid prestige classes, and most feats would have to be removed or integrated directly into a class without its weird, crazy, magical connotations. Well, not as bad as 5th edition, but a lot of those feats had.
Yeah, I'm forgetting how popular prestige classes were, probably because from 3.5 went to Pathfinder, and you didn't have prestige classes in Pathfinder.
So that's specific. When I say Lego characters, that's specifically what I'm talking about. Are the build and block, like, oh, I'm going to take 3 levels of fighter, 2 levels of rogue, 1 level of wizard. Then I'm going to go back to assassin because I want the first 2 there. Then I'm going to go to Myrmidon. And you're like, where are you coming up? Who's training you and all this stuff?
Right.
It's just a game, dude.
Right.
So I would never, as a DM, never let a player, I do 5e and other games like that, even in Pathfinder or 3.5. If a guy says, I want to be a rogue for X amount of levels and go over to wizard, I'm like, no, I'm sorry. To be a wizard, you actually have to go through schooling.
But the book doesn't say that. No, the book doesn't say that. You can't stop me.
But that's my table. I mean,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I have final say at my table. But I've given the caveat is like, if you want to be a rogue that goes into sorcerer, since sorcerer is a charisma thing that you're born with, we can RP this out. We can make this work. But wizard, druid, cleric are off the fucking table. At least
I can make the same argument you just made for the sorcerer for a cleric and druid. Those are just bestowed.
Oh god, yeah, those have to be removed also. A sorcerer is just a wannabe psionic, and psionics doesn't belong in Dungeons & Dragons.
So I mean, with 3.5, I like I said earlier to Joe, is I did play a little bit of 3.0, but mainly got my knee deep in 3.5 before 5e came out, and I like that a dwarf +2 for Constitution, -1 or whatever to Charisma. I thought that was okay. So he's a healthy son of a bitch, but he has no real personality. He's not going to be the class clown.
Okay, sorry.
I saw it, and I had to. I actually want to talk to them about that on Friday, if we're still friends.
So, Doof Money, what is your obsession with armor defeating hits?
Because you're playing the wrong edition of Earth Dawn.
It was the one that was picked. It was absolutely
that's fine. I want to talk to you guys about it on Friday. I really do. So if you want to come on the Friday chill stream.
Oh, if I'm available, we will. But it was fun. It was fun. But we didn't have armor defeating hits, and it would probably be a good thing because Randy got messed up as bad enough as it was. If he got hit with an armor defeating hit, it probably would have been lights out.
So this is
somebody. Go on.
I was about to say, this is my ignorance. What's a armor defeating hit?
It's a different game. It's God dang it! I've been drinking it. It's from Earth Dawn.
It's not like you're drinking beer.
No, but still, I'm kind of bubbled up here. It's bubbly water, carbonated water. Anyway, I saw somebody say you prefer prestige class. Well, prestige classes, they're barely interesting. Again, it's mix and match nonsense.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's
well, somebody in chat said, I think it might have been Bruce, but said it's mix and match nonsense with kits. And even before then, first of all, I've gone back and while I'm a second edition player and I do like kits, if you look through most of the kits, most of them aren't necessary. They do one of two things. They either just establish a format for you, therefore it's useless because you can just do it on your own, or it finds a way to break one of the rules of, I want a fighter that can cast a spell, or I want a wizard that can get a different non-weapon proficiency or something like that. Which again, they're not necessary. The kits aren't necessary. You can go back to basic D&D, or let's say AD&D First Edition, and you can say, and we've said this on a bunch of different streams. I don't know if one is the Gatekeepers. You can play a warrior. You can play a warrior. I can play a warrior, and we can be three completely different warriors. Don't need to pick different feats. Don't need to mix and match Myrmidon weirdness. Don't need to put in, Spell Slayer, whatever. You don't. Some of the kits were neat, like the ones out of Al-Qadim. I thought they were neat. But that's because they were written up so differently. But the thing is you can just use your imagination for that. You didn't need a construct to say, well, what makes me different than you? Well, because I took the dual wielding feat. You didn't take that one. Okay, I swing two swords. I have a -5 and a -2. What do you got? -2 and -2. Oh, you're a ranger then. Got it. It's like it was just unnecessary. It turned into character building instead of character playing.
I don't mind a little bit of that, but I get what you're saying. You don't want Lego characters, and the biggest problem with that
is your role.
Huh? Know
your role.
I'm not sure that it's not as important to me. We'll say that.
Fair.
I mean, you're talking about like niche protection kind of stuff where the wizard is clearly the arcane spellcaster, and
for the game of Dungeons and Dragons, 100% yes. I'm not saying it should be like that for every game, but for the game of Dungeons and Dragons, who's built on that construct, yes. Which is why I understand when people who play basic don't like some things about second edition, how it's too much bloat and too much. I get it. Right, second is my favorite.
Yeah, go ahead.
Second is my favorite only because that's what I had available to me, and that's what I played most of all. I mean, I have to admit that's what I played. I have no issues with basic or first, none whatsoever.
Some people might say that anything but race as class is not D&D.
And I understand that concept, and I don't disagree with them.
So, I mean, that would mean first and second edition and everything past that is not D&D to them. So, and which, everybody's entitled to their opinion. So, what?
I don't like the idea of that, but I never played first or second, so I know.
So here's the thing: people who were in the infancy of the game, played the white box game, and that's old D&D, and the BX is fairly close. They had race as class. When you're a dwarf, you're a dwarf. You're not a dwarf fighter or a dwarf cleric or a dwarf whatever. You're just a dwarf. And so I can understand.
But why is there's a reason for that?
Because a dwarf is a dwarf is a dwarf. And
humans,
compared to humans have a more breadth of experience, and dwarves are more insular, and they have in that concept of
as a lore concept, yeah. But it's the age of man, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, the whole point was you were supposed to play a human. You weren't supposed to play all these other weirdo races. You were supposed to play a human. You're supposed to understand that these other races were alien, that they were much different. And if you played one, things were going to be different and hard. That is
I tell you what, that's not spelled out. That's something for you to guess.
I've had some of the grognards even school me on second edition because of how many different varied races and classes. Yeah. So I don't have the background in this directly, but I bet you there are a couple people in chat who could probably point to a page number that says it's the age of man. It's
well, there's a lot of things about the game that we assume, and that we through play. We develop an attachment to an idea of the game being a certain thing. And the Age of Man looks right from the perspective of the early game, because if you were able to advance past third or fourth level, if everybody's first, second, third level most of the time, then the demi-humans are more powerful, especially because they had abilities.
They have level limitations and all that other weirdness.
Right, but if you don't get to those limitations,
yeah, fair.
Those restrictions, if you apply them to third edition, I think, and chat could. I think I saw Bruce say something about pulling apart the game.
I saw it. I read it.
It's
just a different style. And my thing is his style, or that idea. This is why I don't rip on Pathfinder. Pathfinder is not Dungeons and Dragons. It doesn't have that big % logo on it. So I don't rip it apart. It's its own thing. That'd be like me saying, well, I play Earth Dawn, so I must like Dwarven Wizards. Well, in the Earth Dawn world, I do. Mm-hmm. I don't in a Dungeons and Dragons world, because unlike some people, and I'm probably going to get chewed out by chat for this one, I don't care. Setting is more important than game to me. Well, setting first, game second, and the player's table third, because setting sets the tone from the core rules. So that's why Dark Sun doesn't bother me. I don't really like Dark Sun, but I like it as a concept because the setting, sure, it breaks a lot of the mold, but it still keeps the core rules. Setting first, core rules second.
Was in second edition, I mean, I'm going on to races and classes where you guys are talking about. At least in 3.5, you had the whole monopoly. Everybody can be whatever to a certain degree if your stats were let you be it. Which I think stats are important. To me, I think, I might be wrong. I probably am. I'm not Max, but I think stats are important because I just
remember Raceland had an intelligence of 17 and became a god.
Yeah, well, that's because he was a character in a storybook.
But
he was also a played character before he went into a storybook.
If the base 10 is basic human intelligence, 17 is genius level, damn near,
18 to cast ninth level spells.
Right. So, I mean, sure, 17th intelligent person becoming a god in the fantasy world, sure, they got the smarts to pull it off. Merry fucking Christmas.
Yeah, but he was also a very high-level wizard who supposedly cast 8th and 9th level spells, and if he only had a 17 intelligence, he shouldn't have been able to.
Was that limitation in place in first edition?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay. Well, he also had Fist and Dantalus behind him, too, so, know. He cheated.
Behind him or inside of him?
A little of a round inside. I don't know. That gets a little creepy.
I mean, granted, this is not a children's program, but damn.
Possessed. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about possessed, dude. Come on.
I don't know this character y'all talking about, so it all is what it is.
But you're not missing a whole lot. I didn't like the books.
Really? See, I did.
So
I mean, I liked them for what they were. Same thing like when I read my Star Wars novels. I don't look at it for great prose. I look at it just for it's a Star Wars book, you know. And that's kind of how I looked at Dragonlance and Forgotten. I thought, I mean, to be fair, I thought all the books, whether Ravenloft, Forgotten Realms, Dragonlance, I thought they're all crap.
Yeah.
But they were fun for what it was.
So
I'm going to disagree with you on that one, Max. I got to
you're
disagree with you because I think the Timothy Zahn novels for Star Wars in 1991 and 92 are probably the pinnacle of fan fiction. I've not read anything like that since.
I mean, they were good. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, generally speaking, it isn't Brandon Sanderson or J.R.R. Martin, George R.R. Martin. Jesus Christ. You know, it isn't up there with prose. So
that's fair. But anyway, what I was going with was with 3.5. 3.5, you could be, you know, I even wanted to limit some of the shit that the fucking dwarf. Let's go with dwarf because I like dwarfs in 3.5. That's why I mainly played. But I don't, you know, Dwarven Cleric, okay across the board. I think even you, Max, said you're okay with a Dwarven Cleric.
what edition are we playing?
3.5. 3.5. Let's say 3
I
editions.
mean, what can I say? I mean, I'd have to be okay with a Dwarven Wizard or Dwarven Druid too.
No. I'm not doing the weird shit.
It's not weird if you're playing 3rd edition.
It's still weird.
It's still not even weird for 2nd ed for a Dwarven Druid because it would be under Druid.
You can't be a Dwarven Druid in 2nd edition.
The Dwarven
I'm talking
handbook.
Player's Handbook here. We're not going to. Oh my God. Okay, Umbry.
I'm not talking about Druids. I'm leaving RA Servitors Worlds alone. I'm not touching that. I'm touching base game.
Dwarf 3rd edition.
Yeah. So I'm cool with the Dwarven Barbarian. Not Dwarven Barbarian. I'm not cool with. Well, anyways, a Dwarven Cleric, a Dwarven Fighter. I think a Dwarven Ranger's kind of weird. Granted, that's what you see in most of those books when you look up Rangers. You see a little dwarf with a crossbow.
You do?
And the 3.5, you do.
Okay.
Yeah. Paizo, the iconic dwarf in Paizo is a Dwarven Ranger. That's his combat style is focused on the crossbow, the heavy crossbow.
It's a picture in 3.5, if I'm remembering correctly.
I mean, let's be honest. Dragonlance ruined gnomes for everybody.
I think
gnomes are supposed to be actually more in the woodlands, talking to squirrels,
protecting your lawn.
protecting your.
Yeah. So gnomes should be druids. Okay, gnomes are druids. That's about it. They can't be anything else but druids.
Maybe. I mean, it would be understandable at least. Say that again.
Speak with animals, couldn't they?
A squirrel. I thought it was just like rodents or squirrels or something.
Yeah, small furry things, something like that.
They can't change it, but you know they have everything but druid without being druid. Okay, okay. But I don't know Dragonlance. I've been told actually by 2 of the people in this panel that I should take some time and start reading Dragonlance.
I like
just the first two trilogies. Everything else, if you read the Chronicles and the Legends trilogies, you'll know everything you need to know of what anybody's ever talking about.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the same thing with the Dritz novels. The very first 3 that he appeared in, first trilogy.
With the crystal, not him escaping the Underdark, but with
that one was okay, but most of the stuff after that got boring to me. He was always fighting with that. What's that guy's name?
Wolfgar, Brunner.
No, the assassin guy.
Artemis.
Oh, that was in later
Artemis.
books. Artemis. Yeah, that was in later books.
His what do you call it? Arch nemesis.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, what I was going with this one is if you dialed back, if you do what Max and saying, as if you more or less what Max is saying, I think classes. I don't think classes are races or vice versa. I think races are races, and classes can only suit certain races.
Well, that's fine too. I think I wasn't intending this to be a big argument, but it's a good discussion about how you can, I think, retool a game for using your house rules, right? Because house rules, like you're saying, Max, you got your setting and you got your rules and you got your table. I think house rules are you override the system all the time.
Absolutely.
And because you might think something stupid, I mean, no edition of Dungeons and Dragons is without something I thought was dumb, or just didn't care for.
I can't say. I honestly can't say that about first three. I mean, off the top of my head, out of the basic first or second, something I was just like, not gonna do that. I don't know. I just can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, spellcasting was dumb. Dumb.
How was it dumb?
I didn't like the slotted thing.
But that then play a different game. Like that's
okay. But what I'm saying though is most of us can pick a thing out of a game, especially D&D, and say I don't like that. I'm not saying throw it out. I'm just saying don't care.
No, I got you. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head because a lot of the stuff that people complain about, I enjoyed. Speed factor is one of the most important things to keep in second edition. Everybody's like, I always throw that out. Why? Did you use weapon speed? Or I'm sorry, I went the wrong way with it. I throw weapon speed out. That's stupid. Oh, so what do you use speed factor for spellcasting? Well, of course. Well, you just screwed your wizard big time. Good job there. Also, I think it's important that magic missile goes off that much faster than a time stop spell, or that somebody can whip out a dagger faster than you can with a claymore. I mean, it just makes sense. So that's just
Well, and then you also have the weapon versus armor table.
That 100% optional rule, and it that bogged down everything. We tried using it a couple times, and I've never seen it successfully used where the people at the table could just keep it going. And I very rarely complain about things bogging down a game, but that's one of them that every time we tried, didn't matter who was the game master, it did. Wait a minute, so this one's a +5, but this one's a -2, but this is, oh my god. So.
Right, and you'd have to have it on your character sheet if you really wanted to use it, and it was clunky, and it made certain weapons unusable against a lot of different armor types. Like monks, you use the weapon versus armor table on a monk, and they're useless on anything above leather armor because the penalties get really steep.
Yeah, so many things that were bonus to bludgeoning. Yeah.
So right. So race, class, and stats. So I always pick on the halfling because they're short and they're easy to pick on.
It goes right over their head.
So with the halfling, because you can imagine something that is the size of a child, a being that's the size of a child. Can you imagine that thing being capable without magic, being as strong as a human, or as capable at fighting as a human, or with the mindset of a halfling like you would see in Tolkien, because that's where they came from. So that's kind of the iconic halfling. Would they have the dedication of mind and to be a paladin, or even something like a wizard? You'd have to pigeonhole them to keep true to what a halfling is. You could almost go back to old D&D and say a halfling is a halfling is a halfling, because they're very insular. And what, apart from being a burglar, are they going to be good at?
Defending the Shire.
Right. So right, and their cops were called sheriff. So you had, the person who was like the lawkeeper, if they needed one, which they didn't a lot, was called a sheriff.
The good thing is that in most RPG-based tabletop skirmish games or war games, the game gets kind of comedic when the halfling slingers show up until the dice are rolled and the elven player starts to cry. Because they're good with slings. Don't fuck with the halfling.
Yeah, they got like a +1 or +2 bonus for using slings, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And most of the games I'm referring to use a dice 6 for resolution and keep the +1 to hit and damage. It really takes the knees out of the elves.
I'm trying to halflings. It's been forever since I played a halfling. And anytime I ever played a halfling, it was always a rogue that used a bow or a sling. That was the only thing I could ever get my head around was, if I'm a halfling, everybody's going to ignore me because they're going to think I'm a kid. How can I use this as my advantage? I'm going to be a thief. I'm going to be a rogue.
Imagine the size of the bow that a child would use, and how
tall? Okay, I've been teaching my daughter how to use a bow since she was like 7 years old. She knows how to she can outshoot most adults I know right now.
Yeah.
So if
How
I
old
give
is she?
she's 11.
Yeah. So what size of a bow though?
I
So
give
she can
her
out.
kid bow is no bigger than 3 feet.
Yeah. So I
But
mean,
even a 35-pounder can kill somebody. So,
sure.
Fucking 15-pounder could kill somebody
so
if it hits the right place.
Yeah.
For some of the things that's happening in chat right now, I can't speak to earlier editions, but second edition in not the humanoids, in the Halflings and Gnomes handbook, yes, rules came first, lore came many years later. They do attempt to explain why there aren't halfling clerics.
Well, it's okay. So different DMs will say different things for their table if they don't have that lore. But I always thought that if let's say a halfling, if they had churches, and that's why I highlighted that one thing there. Mm-hmm. Did halflings even worship a god like we think they did?
I don't remember there being a halfling god.
I mean, so why do we have to put our, as humans, paradigms on to the halfling? Maybe they do
because starting with third edition, we're just cosplaying.
Right. Essentially, because all the different races are just humans with pointy ears. And so this is an attempt to get away from that, because and so if you employ, and I don't know if you need to have a different set of level restrictions. I would go to second edition or first edition and just copy paste that, and then you're good. And then there was also a table of stat restrictions. I know the first edition player's handbook, there was a table that showed you what your minimums and maximums were.
Maximum strength there for a halfling in second edition is 17.
I don't think that changed until Pathfinder, because I know they had a strength limit in 3.5.
No, they didn't.
No.
No,
they did.
No. You might have had a penalty at first level when you first made your halfling up. You might have had a penalty to your strength, but there is no maximum for you, because you got to raise your stats at some point. I don't think
+2 dex, -2 strength in the third edition book.
Right.
That's to start. Just to start. I'm not saying
start. So sure, at first level, the maximum you're probably going to have is a 16.
Oh, that's right. Because was it every fourth or fifth level? You're right.
So then you could offset that, and not even using magic.
Just by
leveling, if you really wanted to, which is kind of counterproductive. But
now one of the things I wanted to bring up is if you look at first edition AD&D, there were dwarven clerics, but only as NPCs.
Right. They weren't adventuring folk.
It was written in as in NPC only in the player's handbook. So I mean, to say do halflings have clerics? Maybe, but they don't go anywhere. The write-up for the halfling in the most simplistic terms is this: they're too lazy. They don't care. That's why they also can't be paladins. They're just like, oh man, just let me smoke. I don't want this zealotry. It's weird. Go away.
Right. So explorers would be about the best thing you could. What about the only thing that you would think that halflings are good for?
And usually if they're coerced into it. Do I have to? Fine.
Right. So rogue or thief makes kind of sense because they're kind of jacks of all trade kind of thing. But if you could make a class for a halfling, which is what I think I would prefer to do, or just make the halfling, and they would be more explorer, Indiana Jonesy than anything else.
Kind of scoutish.
Yeah, scout.
I was thinking somewhere between a rogue and a ranger. I was just kind of working.
It's funny that you say that because you take those two in Earthdawn. It's called the scout.
Yeah.
Well, they do that in Pathfinder. Not Pathfinder 5. Was it Pathfinder?
They've had classes that called scout in various abilities. But yeah, there was a scout. 3.5 I played. I'm pretty sure had a scout. Somewhere around.
See, in the back of my head, and I'd never find a table that would allow this. In the back of my head, the only race out there that could ever play a wizard because they live long enough to actually be able to pull off the hat trick is elves. Humans can't be wizards; they don't live long enough.
No, they have drive. They have a fire and a zeal because they are short-lived, so they make good use of their short lives. I get what you're saying about the elf, but you
Because
don't.
elves live what, like 200 years or something?
But elves are lazy. They'd rather look at a sunset for 3 weeks, and they'd rather not be bothered, and they'd rather just work in their gardens.
That's wood elves, not high elves.
No, you want me to pull out all the books and start reading them to you?
Elves, you could call it ennui. You could call it.
Yeah.
They could be. What's where you don't care about not narcissistic, nihilistic.
They are narcissists.
They get nihilistic. They can get lazy. I've got 3,000 years to perfect this.
And to be fair, they don't understand why humans have this. Oh my God, I got it, blah blah blah, all the time. So they just kind of lay back. They don't study as long. They don't study as hard. They don't care. They don't need 9th level time stop and wish spells. It's just what are you humans doing? You're weird. Remember, human traits are diversity, prolificness, and this crazy thing called zeal. This zealotry. Even the dwarven.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, dwarven stubbornness isn't about zealotry. It's just about, I'm not changing. And actually, that's the dwarf's problem. Why doesn't the dwarf excel? Because I'm only doing it the way I was taught as a child.
Right. They're stubborn. They're like rock. They're like rock. That's what they live around.
See, I the way you described elves is the way I describe halflings. I don't, in my head, I don't see elves being that way. Then again, I also have tokens elves in my head.
Now, to be fair, and I'm going to say this again, the lore was written many years after the rules were.
You can only imply some of this stuff from the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual. There's little implications here and there. I mean, elves are described in the Player's Handbook, but not to any great detail. I mean, 2,000-year lifespan, but they only get to 3rd level or whatever, depending on the class. Yeah. So you could make some assumptions on why, but they would just be assumptions. But they'd be fine for your table too.
Yeah. I don't know. I think humans just get too big of a stick. I think humans are everything. What we're accusing elves and gnomes are. I see humans being the same damn way. Not all humans, but they have the ability of being the same damn way.
Well, yeah, humans span all kinds of experiences and behaviors and psychologies. Where what we're saying is the demi-humans, if we're going to make them different, you got to pigeonhole them some.
They're supposed to be a phenotype and stereotype trope.
Right. And their biology lends to their psychology, just like us. We're very varied, so our psychologies are very varied. Elves are not. You might not even be able to tell 2 elves apart very well. It's kind of difficult for some people to tell folks of another ethnicity apart to a degree.
You're all racists.
You all white people to me, but imagine that with elves. It might be very difficult. You might even be able to say, is that even a attractive elf? I don't know.
You look at their eyes.
That's more than fair. That's more than fair. Like I said, I just think we give humans too big of a stick on because they are short-lived.
No, but that's the whole point of how this was done is that it's the age of man. Whether it's the downfall of the demi-humans or they've always just been in the background, it's just like medieval Europe. I mean, obviously we don't use the demi-humans in the same exact way as the Nordics did for elves and so forth.
Right.
We get all that, but the premise is we've got the good guys in the elves. Now we might not see how is that good? The elves just let an entire village get destroyed. How is that good? Because they see things in thousands of years. It's almost like that. And somebody put in chat here that angelic, that deific look. It's like, I know that by you 10,000 people getting wiped out, I've just saved millions of lives, the planet, the ecology, everything. You just can't see it because you were the roaches that got stepped on. Dwarves are living in their underground kingdom. They're as Joe said, they're the shield, they're the rock, they're the earth. They are the ones who will never change. You can always count on them to keep their word. Where the elves are so flighty, there's no such thing as elven word. That the dwarves laugh at. That's one of the reasons why they have strife. Gnomes, they're not supposed to be comic relief. Unfortunately, thanks to Dragonlance, that's what they've turned into is comic relief. But they're not. Dwarf. Luckily, that's very particular type of dwarf, and there are a lot of people that like dwarves, so they didn't get infiltrated too much. And then halflings are supposed to be Bilbo Baggins. That's the stereotype. It's kind of the lazy, I want to smoke pipe. That's how they're written up everywhere. Even when you have different types of elves, like the wild elves versus the high elves versus the silver elves versus the gold elves, and all that little mixing and matching of Forgotten Realms and every other setting I can think of right there, is that the high elves are the haughtier ones, the middle elves, I'll use Dragonlance terms because I know it better. The Sylvanesti were the haughty ones, the Qualinesti were the ones who are a little bit more reasonable, and the Dagonesti, who the whatever the wild elves were, they were the ones that were almost animalistic. But they were all nature loving. They all had the kind of same chaotic nature to them. It's just, they want to keep themselves. You humans are just too loud. You're too obnoxious. You're too in the way. Stop it. Just go away.
You're everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So
Shire weed is the best weed. Jesus.
Shire weed. Well, yeah. Pipe weed. That's what they called it. It has no connotation of any kind other than.
Oh yeah, I know. I've gone over this with a bunch of people.
Paganistic. Thank you.
No, it was not pot they were smoking. It was their own version. It was just a tobacco. I'm like, I get this. I understand.
Well, but you could imply from some of the reading in I think in the novels, the way they describe different varieties of pipe weed, how some were better than others or had different effects than the others, that there might have been some sort of, maybe not marijuana per se.
Oh yeah, no,
but there's probably some other things.
I smoke cigars, and there's been a few cigars I've had that after the cigar has gone out, it's left me with a buzz, and there was no
nicotine.
Yeah, it's a nicotine buzz.
So
I honestly could see elves actually sitting back and smoking Mary Jane. Why not? They would wouldn't be funny at all. That would just be normal because it's relaxing. It's also part of that whole chaotic nature. Yeah, sure. I mean,
why not?
I'm saying they wouldn't. It's just I could picture it more of an elf because an elf is it's that. What am I doing now? I just want to have fun.
Well, I think with halflings, they enjoy things of the earth.
Sure.
And they like, they are not opposed to drinking beer or smoking pipe weed. So if someone said, here's some other kind of weed to use, I mean,
they'd be all about it. Yeah. I can see it. I don't know. No, I get it. I get what you're saying. I agree. I do agree. I just think I don't like the concept of pigeonholing certain races.
You have to, though. Otherwise, what's the point of humans?
I was about ready to say I don't like it, but I see where it's a necessary thing in these campaigns. You
either do that or you go the way of 13th Age, where everybody has one racial ability.
Right.
And then everybody's just a human or just a person, and then some have pointy ears. And there's no real difference between them. You might as well just say the elves live in Italy and the humans live in Europe and the dwarves live in Germany, and do something like that. And then, I mean, you kind of do that now with them the dwarves living in the ground and the elves living in the forest, but it's more geared toward their legendary or mythological origins rather than tying them to a particular. And
I'd even go so far as say Tolkien origins more so than even real origins. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Tolkien borrowed from myth and changed it to suit his books. Yep. Right.
And it worked.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah, Italy and Germany and Europe. You're right. I'm an American.
I was doing a history thing with my daughter, and this actually has something to do with what we're talking about. It really does, but she couldn't get past the fact that when somebody says Viking or Norse person, you think of Norway, you think of Viking, and I'm like, historically, that's not accurate. Love, to be a Viking was a job. It was a career choice. It wasn't a people.
It was actually a slur.
Well, they had their own word for it.
It was a slur. I think it was a Saxon word that meant like brutal or something like that. Right. But it was the Danelaw, that entire concept. But that was definitely Scandinavian, and they moved over to Russia. That's why the Russians have a background in being, a Viking. Nordic.
And she just couldn't understand how there was a separation. It was a career choice that certain Norwegians took at that time because there were still farmers and everything else.
They're some of the best tradesmen in the world.
Right.
And some of the best pillagers too.
Which is why I love it when people say that all the words used for orcs must be black people, because you just have to come back with saying, what about Vikings? Brutal, savage, thuggish.
And that's the dumb. And it's dumb. It's ahistoric because all you have to do is go talk to, take a Wayback Machine and go to China and see what they thought about Westerners. We were all barbarian.
Yeah. Oh,
we
yeah.
were all
absolutely.
savage.
Yeah.
But in terms of making the game,
parlance.
Sorry, go on, Bruce. What was that?
I'm pretty certain China's opinion about us has not changed in modern parlance.
Probably.
No,
Yeah,
no, I don't think
There's
so
still
either.
kings and queens of being an insincere fuck.
So in terms of making third edition not commie, I to be on topic here, the idea of bringing back the race class restrictions. Now, how you choose to do that's your business. Do you want to go all the way back to racist class? Maybe you do. Do you want to do first edition where demi-humans had such low level caps it was almost not worth playing with? I can be level 3. Or do you want to be, you want to use second edition where those level caps are raised and even gave you tools to raise them just a touch higher, if necessary.
And your stats, I think, if you had high stats, I'm not sure if you had high stats, you could increase your level limit.
Yes,
right?
Another one you could do is like triple the amount of XP needed to go up, things like that. The other thing, and this is why I understand why people love prestige classes, because it kind of it took this problem away from multi-classing. But if you have to enforce the multi-classing level limitations. When you have, I'm just throwing out a number, 100,000 experience points there, and let's say that makes you level 10. Then the multi-class character is probably going to be level 7, level 6. And that means the characters, what's it called in third edition? BAM, whatever. THAC0 is low, and saving throws aren't going to be as good. But you know what? Makes up for it by having the abilities of this and the abilities of that. Yeah. But I see too many dungeon masters say, I don't like that because the hit points are too low and the character can't hit anything. And, this person's got, spells of disintegrate, but this one's only working on fire. But, well, too bad. Then don't fucking multi-class.
Right. I agree with that. I think that if you are multi-class and you do dip behind the other characters, I think first and second edition was easier for a range of leveled characters to play together without it being big of a deal. And I think that is because of the hit point limit. In first and second edition, you didn't have hundreds and hundreds of hit points for anything. Not even
that was part of it, but the other part of it is experience. Like your thief leveled, you wanted your thief to level faster. Well, get those percentiles and get those hit points and don't get poisoned. Your wizard, you were protected. It says Heathen Dog likes to say the wizard was an investment, so you just kept the wizard in back. Throw out your 2 spells. Okay, out. We got you covered because you knew.
It's like you're using him as a wand. Cast.
Kind of, yeah. Because you knew in 6 months that dude is going to be like, okay, who am I blocking so you can kill everybody else this way? Okay, I got it. Go kill them. You knew it was going to change. That was great, but everything now is about balance. You got to be balanced. I should be able to PK the cigar DM just as easily as he PKs me. It's like, no, that's not. Stop it. I hate CRs. I hate all that nonsense.
None of it works. Even for what it's supposed to do, CR doesn't work. EL didn't work because they introduced that later on.
What's EL?
Effective level.
Oh, okay.
ECL, I think they called it that too.
Level adjustment or whatever.
Well, it was all attempts to have a formulaic.
The formulae don't work.
Formula to make counters work without any real work on the DM's part. Or
you really have to handcraft it.
And then you have to accept the results of die rolls.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so if you put what you think is a good challenge and the players roll over it, you're tempted to do something about it because I made this encounter and it was supposed to be challenging, but the characters all rolled 20s all over the place.
Did you also pay attention to what the characters are in the group? Because I've seen game masters do two things that really annoy me. Yeah. I am building this monster to attack every weakness the party has. Ha ha ha! They can't beat me. Good job. You built a monster. good for you. And then vice versa. Like, I don't want to have the monster attack their weaknesses because what if the dice rolls go bad? Well, then they go bad.
Yeah.
Then they make new characters. Shit
The
happens.
game is about rolling dice and taking chances. It's not about being chicken.
Bruce laughs because I know he doesn't do that.
I don't give a fuck. Oh, you guys are all grouped together in front of the blue dragon.
Best half PK ever.
Yeah, and I know this Shadow and Sun said, plus being able to be a fighter wizard who could wear armor was awesome.
How did you cast?
I'm not sure who he's talking about, but I'll tell you what could do that was a ranger. Rangers,
well, that's because they got
cast spells.
they had clerical spells, right?
No, they had wizard spells in first
I
edition.
know.
Oh, okay.
Wizard and druid spells. It was weird, but they could wear armor, and they didn't have any.
Yeah, they had plant animal sphere, if I remember correctly, in second edition. So cleric spells work differently, but you could not be a multi-class wizard wear armor in second edition and cast spells.
No.
You're wrong.
3.5. I mean, no, you couldn't do it in 3.5. Well,
there was only one exception that anyone ever brought up in first or second edition, and that is Elven Chain. If you could, trick.
I thought it was only elves in Elven Chain.
Well, I know okay. I don't know if there was a hard and fast rule that only elves could wear Elven.
To be fair, you can table that one however you want anyway.
Yeah,
so,
but if you could, like strong arm your DM into getting an elf to make you some Elven Chain as a wizard, then you could cast in armor. But was it really even worth it? It was cool, I guess, but was it even worth it?
In basic D&D, I remember elves having to wear no armor to cast spells. I remember plenty of elves in plate mail in basic D&D casting second and third level spells.
Oh, sure. Basic D&D, they weren't restricted.
No.
No.
It's just, you were restricted, but that was because your experience point chart, you had to go double the fucking thief. You had to go 2/3 of the fighter, basically, and you were 80% to your level when the mage would level up.
Right. So what I'm saying is an elf isn't restricted by armor, and they could use swords and wear armor and fight fairly well and cast spells.
Okay.
When did mage armor become a thing then? Because that's if I went with which one?
Well, because it was called. Well, that's when it was just called the armor spell in first and second.
Right, and it was actually in the armor spell in some editions was really boss. It gave you a very good armor class.
I was like shield.
Yeah, and in third edition it gave you some armor protection, but it wasn't great. But I was it Rules Compendium. That version you could get a 1 armor class against missiles and a 3 armor class against melee weapons.
I thought that was the shield spell, or am I mistaken?
It might be the shield spell. Either way, it was really, really great. I mean, that's a great armor class. And that
wizard. I mean, wizard fighter. That to me, that's just weird. That's just a weird combo.
A what?
Fighter wizard. I would do a rogue wizard. I would do. Fuck, I would double dip and do a druid wizard. Why not?
Well, essentially, what's now the Blade Singer was the elf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Blade Singer could also cast a spell in the same round as using a sword or making a melee attack. As far as I know, is that true? Couldn't you do the same?
Well, it might be in third edition. Second edition, you still had to follow. In fact, it had +2 to its casting times.
Okay, but you couldn't do it in the same round.
You know what? I have to look it up. I don't play elves. I hate elves. So.
Right.
I know some spells have had an attack as a component of the spell, like Shocking Grasp. You have to touch. And
second, I don't know about first edition, but second edition did not do a good job with having touch attack. That's one of the things third edition actually put in that I was like, I like that, which was the whole touch attack thing. Because in second edition, especially when you just get a couple of levels up, you're talking like 4th, 5th level, but you want to just waste a first, second level spell, and you got Shocking Grasp, and you're like, I'm never gonna hit him. Nope. I missed.
Yeah, because the wizard's Thaco doesn't improve except every 5 levels, if I remember correctly, and it's and even then, it's not that much of an improvement. So, but at the Gish, the fighter wizard. is called a gish in the
Okay.
common parlance, and a lot of people like them. They are featured in some novels, and so they want to emulate that type of experience in play. But those folks are usually like one man armies in those novels, and the D&D experience isn't about a one man army. Generally speaking, you're in a party.
It shouldn't be.
So, I Gandalf could use a sword, but he might. And Gandalf was an angel. So
yeah, Gandalf wasn't a base race, anything. He was an angel. He was something else.
I mean, essentially, he was an angel. But
yeah,
but given just the way it looks, so what? A wizard can wield a sword. Is that big of a deal? Not really. Not really, especially given their gigantically not big bonus to hit.
In D&D it is. Because I think you're ruining the trope.
Okay, sure. But what I'm saying is, just by raw stats, it's not that big of a deal. Now it ruins the niche protection of the fighter somewhat, because fighters should be the ones wielding the swords, and wizards shouldn't be, because they should be wielding their spells.
See, I really disagree with it, but it was 3rd edition that said there's a thing called an exotic weapon proficiency, and you can learn these things that are typically outside of your trade. So a wizard could get a feat, burn it on an exotic weapon proficiency, and learn how to fling around Glamdring like
yeah,
Gandalf.
But he's not good at it.
Gandalf really wasn't impressive riding the back of that demon. And when you figure that he's lived as long as he had lived, I would have thought the demon would have lasted much less than the number of minutes or possibly hours that it did fighting Gandalf.
Well, but it's a force of nature. I mean,
Baelor. It was a Baelor. I mean, this is not D&D related at all, but it was a Baelor. Baelor were top tier knuckle draggers.
Yeah, he was a beast of a demon. I get it, but Gandalf should have been able to do a hell of a lot more. If we're gonna say it's D&D rules, he would have cast like 3 or 4 spells. One of them being banishment.
Oh, sure. He would have made short work of that guy.
Yeah,
sure thing.
Right.
Sure
well,
thing.
yeah, D&D. If in D&D rule, because Baelor exists in D&D and wizards exist, so yeah, you can move this right over back into D&D. Yeah, banishment.
Banishment would be your thing.
Yeah, banishment would definitely be the spell of choice.
Yeah. Because you're not going to go up and face it one-on-one. That's for sure. As a wizard.
Well, yeah.
No
Even in Dungeons & Dragons, Baelors are still, top knuckle draggers.
And the other thing, Gandalf's power was restricted in the Earth realm. He wasn't able to just let loose and do what he could possibly do if he released his full power. He was under restriction, from what I remember.
No, you're right. He was. He was.
So a couple things here, just to this. I'm talking for 2nd edition now. I just wanted to verify. So yeah, it says oh crap, I just lost it. Cannot actually attack while casting spells.
The Bladesinger.
Yeah, Bladesinger also cannot cast in armor other than magical or elven armor.
Right.
So the Bladesinger, the elven Bladesinger in 2nd edition AD&D had to either wear elven, so basically, elven chain, or magical armor. Otherwise, they couldn't wear armor.
Oh,
makes sense.
While casting spells.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah, because the concept of casting spells and additions, I don't know about 1st and 2nd, but you had to be able to do full movement of body and all kinds of other things.
There's all kinds of essentially nonsensical reasons why. But the reasons why are
it doesn't conduct magical energy correctly and
all kinds
all that.
Of stupid. It's just wizards don't wear it. Fighters do.
Right.
I think if you try to go any deeper, I can counter any one of those arguments logically. I
and believe me, people did at the tables as well. Be like, well, it doesn't make sense that I can't wear. I mean, my leather jacket is actually lighter than my cloak that I'm wearing, so I should be able to cast while wearing leather armor. Shut up, you can't.
It's just
That's
the
leather
rule.
armor is different grade of leather than your leather jacket. I'm sorry, I'm using real world.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my mistake. Stop killing
Like a leather
cactus.
duster, like one of our favorite
Dresden, yeah.
Dresden guy.
So Shadow and Sun, I would say no personally in my game, but I'm a dick like that. But by that rule, technically speaking, yeah, it's magical armor.
See, I want to jump back though to hit dice. I don't think classes should. I never like the fact that your class determined what your hit dice was. I always thought it should be what your race determined what your hit dice was.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because fighters are tougher.
You get a D12. If you're a
fighters are tougher than wizards. Fighters
No,
are tougher than wizards.
Yeah, fighters learn to avoid blows. It's not just about the damage you take. It's about avoiding the blows. It's the luck. It's the stamina. It's all that. A wizard stands there and gets stabbed in the throat. A warrior goes,
You know what wizards have learned about fighting?
Don't be there.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. Because they've been reading books and studying ancient tomes and practicing esoteric words that only wizards can pronounce.
Well, the rule number 3 in Sensei, whatever, the Karate Kid rule number 3. The best defense against fighting is not to be there. That's the wizard's, Yeah. I don't want anything to do with it.
It's just like when I was taking Kung Fu, if somebody comes at you in a straight line, you move in a circle. If somebody comes at you in a circle, you move in a straight line. You just don't be there. Yeah, absolutely.
In boxing, it's different. At least, the way I was boxed. You stand still. You toe the line. But that's fighters versus.
And boxing is a controlled environment.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're out on the street, you're not going to go by boxing rules.
That's fair. But no, I'm just saying, I've always thought, half orc, and I know we're going with these mixed blood creatures that Max don't like to talk about, but they would have a higher a hit dice because they are beefier creatures. Where a halfling or a gnome would be a D4, a D6. Humans would be a D8. Yeah, we can take a hit.
What type of hit die would you use? What type of hit die would the character have if they were in a wheelchair?
A D2.
A D2.
D0.
Unless it's a powerlifting wheelchair person. I've seen those. Those guys are weird. I mean, it's not weird. It's just kind of
the adaptive athletes. We won't even go there because that's what they're trying to be like. But then when you see the adventurers go off, it's a bunch of fucking Jerry's kids with a drool trail going after them because they're leaning to the left in their fucking wheelchairs. We're going to the dungeon.
So, Connell, you know how that's handled in Dungeons & Dragons. It's already done, though.
Yeah.
It's just you get a +2 to con.
Yeah, that's true.
Your con
get a +2 to con, -2 to charisma. Humans get a +2 to whatever stat you want to put it in.
I don't like stat modifiers like that.
Elves get a +2 to Dex and something else.
Personally, just rather have your stat. Maybe have the dice when you dice roll. You have different dice rolls, and then you have limits.
Oh, so kind of like the Palladium system, where it's like you can only have 2d6 intelligence, but you can have 4d6 Constitution.
Yeah, that's probably better, I think.
Sure, if the game supports it. I don't think Dungeons and Dragons necessarily supports that with the 3 to 18 construct. I think maybe in that case, 5e or 3e would be a better version to support that because the modifiers can just keep going up. But like in earlier editions, I don't think that would work.
But having essentially an unlimited stat like in 3rd edition is another problem of 3rd edition.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
the escalation goes really out the window.
I mean, I know I'm gonna get some haze on this one, but 5e cleared that mess up. You can't go any stat higher than a 20 without it being magical. Well, we're X amount level. I'm an 18.
So what is already considered magical? You can't go higher than unless it's magical. Okay.
Magical, a piece of armor, something magical that enhances your.
You can't go higher than an 18 in regular D&D.
Well, you can in 3.5 because I had a character who was like 45.
Without magic. without magic. You can those the books, the Librams and manuals, they can get you above 18.
Oh yeah. But you didn't have automatic stat
No,
bonuses in previously. You rolled your stats, and that's what you had, unless you got cursed or
you
read a book.
to do some research to figure out what stats above 18 did for you, because they were in the
Oh, that's right. Well,
the
first
deities and
edition.
demigods. Yeah, those guys had stats above 18, and
Sometimes I'm
that's
glad
where
I
you
played second.
yeah.
This is where I got off the boat, and this is where I'm happy. Yeah, no, I get it. I thought I was getting off the boat after 3.5 Pathfinder, because 4th edition just drove me fucking nuts. But
Right.
yeah, I get it. I don't know. Like I said, I'm probably wrong. I just always thought the hit die should count on the race, not the fucking class.
It does, but not as much as the class counts. The class counts more. The race modifies it through Constitution.
Hit doesn't just mean you have thick hide. That'd be armor class, if anything.
I'll put this in perspective for you, Cigar DM, and I'm going to take us over to Palladium. As you level up in Palladium, it really depends on how you're leveling up. Are you a racial character class that, like a dragon, that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and you get more meat stacked on you? Or are you a soldier that has a very quick experience level chart? Because that's what coalition soldiers do. They go up like a thief in D&D, but their character hit die is determined by the type of class they are. That's what determines it. Because when you're doing soldier shit, you're not in an office environment with like a D3 hit die. You're out in the field with a D8 or D10, and you're fighting things. You're getting into physical rows. You're feeling what a juicer in Minnesota punches like. You get to feel that face-to-face sort of thing. And that's why you have all these things determined by class and typically not by race. The racial character classes in Palladium are a lot more rare than the OCCs.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna sum up what's been going on in chat while this has been going on. You know what? I don't like armor class. We should use damage reduction. Guys, we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons here. We're not talking about all the nonsense that you guys want to play.
I want to play Fate. Go screw yourself.
I don't care what other games do, and I don't care what your opinion is. I care about the fact, except for how it relates to Dungeons and Dragons. That's what we're talking about. There are a lot of things about Dungeons and Dragons I don't like, and I think could be done better. That's why I played Earthdawn for so many years, and even there are things that could be done better. We're specifically talking about Dungeons and Dragons,
and perhaps
sticking to the. Sorry, go on.
I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
Oh, you go ahead.
And trying to make 3rd edition a little more palatable, or old school is probably not really a great way to say it, but maybe you make it more human centric and give it more character. 3rd edition
just run
is
more basic D&D.
Excuse me.
Just run more basic D&D.
Yeah, you can do that.
I think the moment you make it more human centric, you're going to kill the game. I really do. I think you need now 101. Hold on, let me finish. I don't think you need 101 different fucking races. Don't get me wrong. But
you don't need any races.
No, because if you get done with reading fucking Lord of the Ring and says, "Well, I want to be like Gimli," well, I want to be like Pippins. You know
don't need any races. This is really just a basic, a little bit of 1st edition AD&D, and this is the game that should have been 3rd edition. This book right here should have been 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, except for it's only humans. There's nothing but humans. I know somebody's gonna but there's that land. Shut up! I'm talking. Only humans.
I think it'd kill the game. I really do.
So you don't think Conan's fun at all?
I think Conan is not D&D. Conan is Conan.
Yeah, but is Conan fun?
I enjoy the Conan. The closest I've ever been to playing a Conan game is Bruce's, and even Bruce's game has other than just human races in it. So no, I've never been in a straight Conan game. No.
I'm not saying game. I'm saying is Conan fun?
Oh, but I like Conan. I like the stories. I like the stories of Conan. But would I want to play it? No.
Why?
Because it's like everything else. It's like any other human, you're just swinging a sword.
Wow.
Everything else is like Conan. Conan
Wow.
was first.
That's probably fair. That's more that's
Sorry.
the hell was that?
You know what that tells me is that you can't see the diversity in humanity.
Yeah, humans are.
My diversity in humanity is all humans are shitheads, one way or the other. But that's my opinion.
That's on you then. The diversity in humanity is absolutely crazy. Whether it's by village, whether it's by city, whether it's by empire, whether it's by kingdom, whether it's just by skin color or where somebody comes from, what happens here does not happen there. You can have all those same tropes in individuals, that anything that comes from a demi-human, you can have an individual outside, but you don't have dark vision. Well, who the fuck cares? Learn to have a little bit of a detriment or normalcy, I'll say.
Right.
Look at Conan, right? The movie. I have much more experience with the movie than the comics. I have some, but more with the movies. So you had Subutai.
Right.
He's not Conan. You had Conan. You had what was the woman's name?
Which one? There was Sonia, and then there was the one from the first movie.
The first movie woman who got killed.
Yep.
Okay, those.
Oh yeah,
those
yeah.
are
I know what you're talking about. I can't
people.
think of her name.
And then I'm forgetting everybody's name. I
haven't seen it in forever.
The big bad guy.
Oh,
Falsa Doom. And then Falsa Doom had his thugs. They're all different. His whole Falsa Doom's cult. They were weirdos.
Yeah.
The first it's
Raiders of the Lost Ark. Look at, I mean, without even sticking with Conan, just look at Raiders of the Lost Ark. Look at the first two of the movies, Temple of Doom. Like, there's so much crazy diversity that you can read. You don't need elves. And this is chat to me. I'm sorry, chat. I'm insulting you, but this is what I'm hearing from chat. Well, actually, guys.
Valeria. Yes, Valeria. Thank you very much, Kill Raven. And they're all different.
Got it first.
Here's my thing, and this is D&D, this is Pathfinder, this is any fantasy campaign I sit down at the table on, even if it's not fantasy, if it's Babylon fucking 5 or Starfleet. If I want to sit down and play a fantasy campaign, I want there to be more than just humans. I want to play something that I'm not. I want to be a dwarf. I want to be not so much an elf. Sure. But I want to do something that, I wake up every day as a human. I hang out with other humans. If I'm sitting down at the table and I'm repeating myself, I don't want that.
Then don't play you.
Are you a wizard?
No, nor is my name Harry. But I mean,
you're not a thief.
Well, not a thief. But I could, in my earlier days, I could be classified as a fighter or whatever.
Here's what you do. Your character is 4'11". You're a little on the short side, but you know what? You got some girth. You worked out because the kids are picking on you. Decided to grow a beard one day, and you know what? That made you look a little older. And your family came from a different land, so you talk like a freaking bad Scottish accent. There you go. There's your fucking dwarf. You just can't detect grade and passage,
or see in the dark, or drink copious amounts of non-dwarf beer.
Umbry just hit it on the head. We not only have endless cultures, but we have the near endless body types too. There is
it's everything is a personal whatever terminology. I in my opinion, it would kill the fantasy realm if that was the only. I'm probably wrong.
Okay.
But there's different types of fantasy. Yeah. That's the thing.
That's true. That's true. You got Conan. Conan's a great series. I love Conan. George R.R. Martin. The Game of Thrones would be not the TV series. I'm talking about the books.
I love the first 3 books. After that.
Yeah, right there. I think would be a great setting for a campaign. And the only races out there are humans.
Dude, that's what I love. When I first read the book, the first 48 pages had a kid pushed off a tower, incest, and murder. And I'm like, I'm in. I'm all in on this stuff.
Cheesy crackers.
I'm so sick and tired of the Shannara type fantasy where the bad guys have twirling mustaches and the good guys always wear white. Screw that.
Well, you don't have do that, but I like having well-defined heroes and villains. At
No.
least on some level.
Sometimes, I always
If
thought this was
everything shades of gray, it's boring.
I always thought this was an interesting plot hook when my friends did for the campaign. I wasn't in this campaign, but he had a group of people who thought they were the heroes the entire session, the entire campaign. They thought they were the good guys. At the end of the campaign, they realized they were the bad guys.
Yeah.
They've been lied to the entire time by their king. Well, I'm a paladin of this. You're a paladin that follows the laws of your land, right?
Got to bring that fluid word in.
Skelebetus has entered the chat.
Oh my word!
Take it back. Take it back.
That's something that I don't allow either. It's like I have a dexterity of 18, but I'm 250 pounds at 5'6". No, you're not.
No, you do not. No, 6. Okay, you better be 160.
No. Shadow and
pounds.
Sun, no, not true at all. And one, you can play a sci-fi game without aliens. BattleTech's a great example of it, and BattleTech's got some of the best storylines, if a little, we'll say on the nose sometimes, and it's all humans, 100% humans. That's it, humans. Mutant Chronicles, they're mutants. Are they humans?
No.
I'm with you. So it can all be done, and fantasy races are overdone. Look, if you're a fantasy race in my game, Game of Thrones equals awesome. The first 3 books. And if you guys can't handle a little bit of incest and so forth, go pray at church the next week. I don't care. But
yes, everything's a shade of gray. We can't be actually good people.
Starks were good people. How are they not good people?
Yeah, they all got killed too.
Not all of them.
Well, there you go. Like that's
All
why
but-
good guys don't win. Good guys die young.
All but 4. All but 4 of the Starks get killed.
But as far as like the race, the demi-human thing goes, just say when I run games, demi-humans are persecuted to some degree. There are no elven cities sitting right outside human land. Screw that. The humans are trying to take them over.
And I don't have a problem with that. If I'm in your campaign or anybody's campaign, and I say I want to play an elf or a dwarf, and somebody's like, well, you're going to catch a lot of hell, I'm like, fine, so be it.
I warn you up front that you absolutely can, because I don't kick the races out of the game, but you're just not going to be wandering around like, oh, the elven village is just over the hill, so I'm going to go talk to them. It's like, no, that's not how this works.
No.
Everybody has a different feel at their table.
Right. I mean,
Max likes to oppress the demi-humans.
I keep characters poor. You guys talked about that a little bit yesterday.
He likes to oppress everybody.
I oppress everybody, but I've never had anybody leave my game over it. So every time I hear this nonsense, like, I've never played your game, it sucks. Blah, blah. Okay, I've never had anybody leave.
See you next week.
Yeah. No, that's always before they play.
Oh. Somebody sent me a message on.
Oh, here we go.
But as far as like, again, trying to keep this back on topic here with the remove the commie from 3rd edition. The main thing is bring back either level restrictions. I don't know if you could really do level restrictions in 3 like you could in earlier editions.
Just don't let them level past 9.
Stop the campaign. Stop the campaign.
Leave it on.
But that's I'm talking like from 1 to 20, like the core of the entire game. I maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know. 3rd edition, I never min-max. I never dove into it that deeply. I played it quite a bit, but I just made characters and based on my theme and moved on. And to much of everybody's chagrin, every time they tried to promise me the best prestige class ever, I took warrior, rogue, mage. So I don't know if you could do that, but if you can, there you go. That's one way. Just limit. Sorry, if you're a dwarf, you do not get to be a wizard. It's that simple.
Yeah,
there you
it's
go.
not that hard. What you do is you base. I think the best way to do it is you have level limits, whether you're going to be generous or not, and then you can have high stats, allow you higher access to classes that you're good at. As a demi-human, like an elven wizard. If you have an elven wizard with an 18 or 20 intelligence, well, you can get a few levels higher on, or something like that.
As much as I'm a 2nd edition fan, I blame 2nd edition for this nonsense of play against type. You guys were talking yesterday about the evil campaign. I mean it. I'm not going to get into that topic, but I mean it. All sincerity. I had two groups that played evil campaigns longer and better than they did their good campaigns. Drove me crazy, but they had more fun with them. And I'm like, really, and they got along better. Like, how does that happen? I was like,
anytime we did any kind of evil stuff, it always disintegrated rapidly.
Yeah, that's normally my argument against evil campaigns, because the moment after like third or fourth session, evil campaigns normally run themselves and normally right into the ground. Okay, you pissed off.
I wish I had that experience, because I was trying to prove a point and my point got thrown right back in my face. Anyway, but it's this whole play against type thing. Like, I don't want to be typecast. Then play a human.
Yep.
It's that simple. If you think that D&D races are supposed to be diverse, you are wrong. Maybe your table does that, but that's not how they're supposed to be. I don't care what you do at your table. You do your own business at your table. But that isn't the way they're supposed to be.
Yeah. The breadth of experience is the human. Period. I say level limit the demi-humans, and then we call them demi-humans again. Or you could...
demi means half. They're only half a human.
Yeah. Human be better.
Yeah.
And then have the level... And then you have stat limitations. Except for by magic. Especially for that dang halfling that's only the size of a child. There's no way they have the same strength and power of a human. And I think 17 is too high.
I do too. I think that 17 is too high. I think 14 is probably max or something like that. Yeah. But you know, I'm not one to just bust up all the rules, like every single rule that I think is a little weird. But yeah, I mean, if I were doing it, starting from scratch, I definitely.
And elves might have a con, since con is there in D&D. Con has always been their kind of Achilles heel. So you limit that to a certain point.
Well, they do have, like, I mean, I don't want to pull the book back out again, but they had ranges in there. Like your minimum intelligence for an elf, I think, was supposed to be an 8 or something like that. So you couldn't be a retarded elf.
Right. At least not initially.
Yeah, fair.
You run into a mind flayer, you might become a retarded elf.
God, I love those 5e commercials. Anyways, not 5e, 4e.
That was the only good thing about 4E.
Yeah,
those were funny.
I'm right there with you on some of this, guys. I really am. But I never played earlier editions. Like I said,
so you're not going to have the perspective, because your perspective will be different. You started with third. I started with BX. And I know Max is
I technically started with BX, but don't count it. My thing was second edition.
And Bruce?
Yes.
He's typing.
You started with what?
I started with Star Wars D6.
Oh, yes! Okay. So as far as D&D.
Then we bought the Rules Cyclopedia because it was a complete game in one book.
Yeah, that's a good book.
That is a book that I want to bring back. Let's go for level 36, guys. You know, because that's where it all topped out for fighters, mages, thieves, clerics.
Level 36.
Yeah, that's got to take years.
Let's go. He's fine with that. I've gamed with him before.
I am too. But I've seen people try to do stuff like that. Oh, you can get level 20 in a year. How? No, I've never when I was running a game 6 days. Oh, sorry, I was running 2 different games. So 5 days a week, I ran the same game. In a year's time, before I finally got burnout, nobody made it past level 10.
Yeah, 5th edition.
That person cheated.
We played Rule Cyclopedia the summer before I went to the Navy, and I had one guy with an elf get to level 6. And everybody else was about level 7 with their characters. And they were enjoying it. We loved that game, but we played probably every 2 to 3 weeks for about 12 to 13 hours a day.
Wow.
When summer came around, we would just all hang out at Danny's house, Danny Bledsaw, and we would play there because he had boxes of old Judges Guild stuff. So I had all the source material I ever need. Yeah, and it was glorious.
Yeah.
I have found that when, and this is from my lengthy experience and a lot of mistakes that I made, is both in running and playing. When leveling is slow but meaningful, people enjoy. They don't have a problem if they're not leveling up every come on, man! I made level 2 3 weeks ago. Why am I not level 3 yet? This is ridiculous. No, they don't care. They play the characters. They learn the characters better. And I hope you're there for me, Joe. I hope you get to play Earth Dawn more, because one of the things that you're going to find in Earth Dawn is that you're going to level those first 3 circles quickly.
Damn it.
But once you get to 4th circle, although 4th edition changed this a bit, at least in the earlier editions, so many things open up for you that you're going to spread those legend points wide, but you're not going to worry. You might sit there at one point and go like, I've been 4th circle for like 2 months. But you're still gaining here. You're gaining there. You're doing these things that helps you still improve your character. You just haven't effectively leveled up because it offers so much to you. And I saw that in Dungeons and Dragons as well. Like, yeah, there's always the person who wants to cheat. Like, oh, you told me I got 1,000 experience points, but I need 1,200 to level up. 1,200. Oh, I leveled. It's 1,000. You know, that's why I keep close tabs of that stuff. But you know, or it's like, come on, man, I'm 100 away. Can you just give me 100? Nope. Because there is still something about, you need that time to learn the character. That next level isn't going to make that much of a difference because you're still in the middle of the dungeon. You're still going to fight the same things. Yeah, it's going to make it a touch easier. Have one extra spell, but it doesn't matter that much.
There's other ways to get advance anyway, especially in the older games. Is treasure. You can advance, but you keep everybody poor, so that doesn't count for you.
Well, I have other tricks that I do, like
prestige, and there's domain building and stuff like that.
Yes.
So there's other ways to advance in AD&D besides leveling. Although, for me, I've played D&D a lot, so I find low levels a little boring. So first 2, 3, 4, if they go by fast, that's cool. But I want to take my time after that, because
Joe, don't play my game, Joe.
Oh.
Don't play, because Connell's been playing it for the past 5 months, and you're level 6 now.
Yeah,
like I said, 3 or 4. I meant 3 or 4.
But how often do you play?
Once every 3 weeks.
That's you'd never be 6th level in my game after 6 months of that many sessions.
6th level is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
Yeah,
but
they're also pretty powerful too.
I also try to do 10-hour days.
We get a lot of gaming in, and we have a lot of chances to earn experience points in Bruce's campaign. Realistically, my only bone with this campaign is the scheduling. I wish we would get together more often, but that's just me. I mean, I'm sure, that's like my only real bone of tension. I don't mind a slow game, but if it's going to be a slow game, and this is not a dig at anybody, start us off at a higher level, especially if it's going to be a high level campaign.
It depends, because I'm seeing in chat here about older people not liking low levels, and I get that because we've done it so many times. Like Joe said, we've done it so many times. Like, oh, here we go again. All right, and I completely understand that, but you need that time to learn the class. And no, I have seen too many people who think that they're smart, that they played, I played, 3 and 5e. I can figure out the 2nd edition stuff quickly. Just let's go. And by the time they're 4th level, they don't understand how their spells work. It's like, are you kidding me?
If I was to step back and play an older edition, I want the slow game. Yes, I want to be level 0 and work my way up. But if I sit down at a Pathfinder campaign or 3.5, where I know what I need to do to get this character effective without cheating. Let's in how far up this chain do you want to run? We're going to do 25. Start us at fucking 5th level. Please start us at 5th level.
Well, like Albert Owl said, he starts
25% of the game gone.
Well,
that's the biggest complaint
in strict level numbers, yeah.
Yeah, in numbers of levels, you're right, but there's a lot of bullshit you're sidestepping by doing that. I don't want to save the cow. Who fucking cares about the cow? but you need to save the cow so you get enough XP so you don't die. I'm like, fuck the cow.
I think you can have meaningful low-level adventures.
I completely agree, Joe.
Yeah, you absolutely can. But let's use the cow thing for a second. Use that as a time to start building your domain that you can't have yet. Yeah. Talk to the farmstead. Get them on your side. Work with them. Turn it into a little bit more role-playing social. I know some people are like, I just want to kick down doors and take treasure. Well, my game includes all the stuff. You're going to have social. If you don't want to interact with it, I will do this.
That's fine. If that's the campaign I'm sitting down for, and the DM says, this is going to be world building or domain to building, then yes, I am going to completely play a different type of character instead of like, okay, so there is a great evil in the world, and the idea of the campaign is for you to stop it. Okay, then that
should not come out at first level.
Nope.
I hope not.
I've had a few DMs to do that, and I think it's I think it's a mistake, but if I just want to play, at the end of the day, at the end of most days, I just want to sit down and roll some dice. I don't care.
That's most people who want to play. They just want to play. If you put something halfway decent in front of them, you can work together on whether you're going to be fighting the big bad at 20th level to save the universe, or whether you're going to be domain building around mid-game, or whether you're going to have whatever types of campaigns you're going to run. It's getting a good group of people at the table is key to all that.
Right. Well, for example, this was Jade's campaign. It was Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous. Everybody knew we had to stop the big bad. Everybody knew that we had to stop the big bad, or the Pathfinder world would have blown up with evil. The evil was, sleeping out of the gate. You had to stop. So it was all going railroad to a certain point. And it was a good campaign. I think.
Was it railroading, or was it like I do? I do timelines. And
it was a railroad. It was you have 3 months to close this, or hell is going to come.
Yeah, it's a timeline.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, at least in my game, I mean, that's kind of a strict timeline, but at least in my game, if you don't close it, hell comes loose, but you can still play, because now you have to figure out a way of putting it back, or you have to figure out a way of survival, or you have, et cetera, et cetera. The game can still go on. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Heathen Dog hates that, but yes, you can.
I would hate it too. But you could. Any interesting way to do that would be to have two groups, and have one group join and one group not join, and see how things pan out.
I have hard enough time staying with one group.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you wouldn't be part of the second group. You'd be part of one or the other.
Well, if I'm running, that is.
Oh.
But fair enough, yeah. But I want to keep us back. So we talked about two of the three things. Should we talk about all three things? You said race class combinations is one.
Yeah.
Two is what? Two is attributes.
Hold on.
And then three.
Yeah. So stat restrictions, and then we also kind of talked about stat generation, because stat generation, how you get your stats initially, and how
level caps. That was the third one.
Yeah, level caps, okay. And all that kind of plays together with third edition or with D&D, with the 3 to 18 range, and potentially just rolling 3d6 down the line, or perhaps being a little generous and letting you arrange or whatever. I would do that instead of any of the third edition 40s. I might do 46 drop, but I think 3d6 a range would probably be it.
There's this weird thing where everybody feels they have to have high modifiers in order to play,
especially
and I don't.
Level.
I don't understand that. Well, I don't have a +3, so I don't know how I'm expected to do my class. Let me explain something to you. Now, yes, there are exceptions. I know somebody in chat's going to be like, well, actually, at this... Shut up. At first level, y'all had a 20 THAC0.
Yeah.
Now, you specialize in your strength and so forth. Yeah, I get it. But the wizard fought technically just as well as the warrior, outside of the number of proficiencies if he used it, et cetera, et cetera. But
type of weapon.
Yeah, but if you just rolled up and you didn't have anything exceptional, you could still play the game, and everybody knew it. Nobody sat there and be like, well, I don't have any 16s, so I don't get my 5% or 10% experience bonus, so I don't want to play this character. We played them.
Right.
And Umbry over here is the only person I've ever seen say, and she put this on our Discord a while ago, saying, well, people just suicide themselves then. I've never played in a group that did that. And I've played all over the fucking world. I have never been in a group where somebody suicided himself because of attributes, ability scores.
Anytime I start a campaign, everybody's like, I have a lot of people, what the hell are you going to play? Where are you going to play? I'm like, I don't know until I see my stats.
Why?
Why?
That's dumb. Why your stats? No. See, the thing is that's the problem with modern, is everybody needs to min-max. Viability is what's important. Are you viable? Yes, it is technically possible to be in a group and have fun where the thief is stronger than the fighter. And the fighter has a higher dexterity. I'm sorry, go on, Bruce.
I'm gonna dovetail on what you're saying, Max. There was a movie called A Fistful of Dollars that came out in the 60s. And I just had a fucking hard on. It just happened in my panel. All three men that just heard me say that were like, oh. Yes, I'm going to tell you that if you guys are running a game, you don't need to have players with characters with min-max stats. Because the lone gun was not an 18 dexterity. He was not an 18 strength. He probably was not even an 18 intelligence. But he was crafty, and he was seasoned, and he knew how to listen to figure things out.
Yeah, those
you
guys
actually become more technical. I'm sorry, tactically sound.
Yeah,
by having lower stats.
Those guys in the Fistful of Dollars, they were not first level. But they were not ordinary people either. But they didn't also didn't have high stats, like you're saying, most likely, except perhaps in their mental stats.
I'll say his mental stats were still better than his dexterity. His dexterity was practice.
Correct.
Well, okay, hold on. No, it's been a while since I've seen the Holy Trinity, but I remember him being probably one of the better gunmen in that show, in those three movies.
Yeah.
Right. He was very well experienced.
So that's,
as you say, is that level? Because let's bring this back to D&D for a second. Yeah. You might not have the highest stats, but at third level you get a +1 sword. At fourth level you get better armor, and then in third edition you bump up a stat at some point. You just, as the game goes on, it progresses with you. You don't have to slay everything with one hit. You in earlier editions, if you do second edition and you play with weapon proficiencies, you can have specialization. I mean, there are a couple things I cut out. I don't allow the fighter, the dual class human dual class fighter thief dart thrower with an 18 strength. I don't allow that, because that's not what a fighter's about. I was just saying. But you don't need those extra bonuses. Are they nice? Are they helpful? Are they something like, I can name one person in my entire life who actually rolled an 18 double ot strength in front of me. One person. And he did it as a joke. And I was like, uh-oh. I was like, well, you got your 18 double ot. Guess you know what your strength's going to be now, because he wanted his 18 somewhere else. He said, well, if I get my double ots, I'm keeping it. Oh, shit. Anyway, but that's not something that happens all the time. But mysteriously, they happen all the time. Like, wow, every group I'm in, I got 18 double ot. It's like, how many potions did you drink? How many books did you read? How did you get there? How many girdles? But you get a girdle of giant strength. You get the bracers of defense. You start getting these things that slowly tap onto each other. It's only +1. Well, that +1 plus this +1 plus this other +1 plus holy shit.
Or the other thing, if you're a fighter with 14 strength or 13, and you find that girdle of storm giant strength, you go from a 14 to a 23, 24, whatever it was in second edition.
Depends on which giant you got.
Yeah.
Well, storm giant. Well, you probably don't want to give them a storm giant strength, but let's say you give them a cloud giant strength or a hill giant strength.
So 22, 23, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it'll jump right in, and your bonuses go from almost nothing for 14 to super boss.
You say that's I have to look it up, because that's crazy what you just gave. That storm giant strength.
Storm giant strength is 25, I think.
Yeah, well, no, Titan is 25, but you said fire giant. Let's do fire giant. That's 22. That's a +4 to hit, which is crazy in early editions of Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. You basically just gave yourself 4 levels.
Yeah,
and
14
plus 10 damage. That's more than a maximum hit die.
Yeah,
you could flick somebody to death with that shit.
Yeah, a plus 14 strength doesn't even give +1 to hit, does it? Maybe +1 at most.
14 strength, I thought was a +1. No, you're right. You're right. You don't get a +1 to hit until 17,
Yeah.
and +1 damage at 16. It was Dex I was looking at. Yeah, it was Dex.
So you jump from no bonus to +4.
Right.
That is even more interesting than dinking it up like you do in 3rd edition. I'll get my +2 and I'll get +1 on my rolls. I'd rather stick around maybe something mediocre and then pop up to something really cool at a later level, and that's more interesting to me.
See, this is why I like charged items at low level. If I'm going to give low level characters magic items, like
I only have so many of these per day.
Yeah, well, you have a girdle of giant strength. Let's say that character is just, or a player, I think it'd be really cool for him to have it. But I don't want a player to have a girdle of giant strength, at 3rd level. I just don't. Yeah. But it'd be really awesome. Okay, girdle of giant strength 3 times per day, or a girdle of giant strength that has 15 charges on it. When they're done, or something like that. You can find ways to incorporate these items into the game. I do it a lot with weapons, especially because I love shadows so much. Especially when the characters are going to fight against something that's undead, or I want to use a werewolf, and I just having them go accidentally come across a silver weapon might not be, in the cards. I'll give them a weapon that's got charges on it. Okay, here's your short sword +2 with 20 charges.
Right.
Now, for those of you that are familiar with 4th edition Hackmaster, first off, drink. Second off, when you level up, you have these die that I just rolled here, all 6 of the standard die, which you must roll. And if you roll maximum result, you roll again. And whatever stat this is tied to, once you stop rolling max, you assign these percentage points to that ability score. So at a certain point, you actually do have the possibility of having that ability score go up by a point. And I do that in my own Pathfinder games, kind of behind the scenes. I don't ever let the players know what their percentage strength is. But occasionally when they level up, I'll let them know, your wisdom went up by 1. Wait, I'm not 4th level. I'm not 8th level. I can't do that yet.
I've noticed you've done that.
So I do that behind the scenes. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's just one small way to give the players a feeling of growth through the game. And I really like the things that Hackmaster does, both 4th ed and 5th ed. And I look at other systems too, but that's one of the subsystems I use to make the characters feel like they've gained something more than just simple experience points or, magic weapons or etc.
Right. So Arnman here, if your game has everyone with big bonuses, the DM just has tougher monsters hit it. It's almost like playing supers, and I get that.
There's also one caveat to that. I'm sorry, but I have a caveat to that when you're done.
Yeah. What is broken is when the group goes to town, assuming town is normal. Here's my thing about town. When you have high level characters, or even mid or low level characters with magic items and they're powerful, what should limit them in town is their ethics, right? You shouldn't have to have the bartender be a retired 20th level whatever to keep the players in check. If you do, you need to find a new table of players, or you roll with because you like it too. I
don't care about the stupid people in the town, man. Like, just let me. Hey, look, I'm just let me have my fucking beer and let me get my armor, and then let's go break down some more doors.
Right, but it says lawful good on your paper. Good for me.
That behavior drives me up the damn wall as well. I hate that behavior.
Yep.
So the other thing I wanted to add to what he said there, there's one other thing that I've come across when that happens. If you make characters too powerful, there's one thing that doesn't normally adjust with them. Hit points.
Right.
And when you have to make monsters so powerful, thank you very much. When you have to make monsters so powerful for them to hurt them, they can 1 or 2 shot characters in the party. And that becomes its own problem.
Glass cannons.
Yes.
That's what we call it.
Even the warrior.
And that happens in 3rd edition as well. Even though the hit points scale up higher, you still have the glass cannon effect because you end up fighting monsters that have just incredible. They can deal incredible amounts of damage, and you can one-shot characters very easily when you're dealing with monsters that you are capable of taking out, or just maybe just barely capable, and they can just boop and mush you.
Yep.
Killraven made a great comment. He said, "I always like having items get better incrementally along with the character's level." You want to play Earth Dawn, my friend?
Right. That's something that we
gotta go get another beer.
I wonder. So when we were new in when we were young playing D&D, this idea occurred to us. I don't know whether we got it from the Dragon magazine or from other players or whatever. But items that level with you. I wonder if the folks who made Earth Dawn were just D&D players who thought, I want to make a different system, and this is an idea I'm going to bring in because I like the idea.
Could very well be. I mean, that's how Palladium came to be. I think that's how a lot of games came to be. Right. And Earth Dawn takes a lot of the stuff that people complain about Dungeons & Dragons, like we were talking earlier, damage reduction. 6 Earth Dawns, like damage reduction, and incorporates, as you saw, that directly into the game, and not by 1 or 2 points, but by a legit amount into the game. So
T-shirt.
We're good.
That's right. He tonight he was on with a pundit.
That was tonight.
Yep.
That's why we're here.
Oh wow.
That's why we missed it. And Randy has a game he's running tonight. So.
I guess I should. No, actually, I talking about going back to the stats. I just like having the stats in front of me before I decide what I want to play. It's even if I sit down at a table tomorrow and we're rolling wherever the dice land is, it goes in order: strength, dex, con, wisdom.
Roll 3d6 in order. Yeah.
Right, that's fine. I don't care. I'll roll the stats. Let me see what's in front of me so I know what to work with. Because I don't want, even if it's not the ideal stats, I have 10s and 11s and nothing higher than a 13. That's fine. I will find something to make it work. I just don't want to be saddled, and I know other players that don't want to be saddled with the characters. Like, I guess I'm here just to hold your guys' backs.
Why would any character ever feel that way? I don't get that premise at all.
Especially if everybody's starting off on the same 3d6 roll in order or 3d6 in a range. If everybody's doing that, you're all going to have fairly, unless someone's really lucky, you're going to have fairly comparable characters. Right. So you're not going to hold it. You're not going to hold anybody else's bags any more than anybody else is.
Well, what? Because you don't have a +2 to hit, you now think you're worthless? I mean, I don't understand.
It's not that. It's just a lot of the campaigns I'm in, the 4 pillars of D&D need to be filled before we talk about anything else. I disagree with it, but that's how a lot of the campaigns I'm in, how the DMs feel. You need a fighter. You need range. You need martial, range, healing, and arcane.
Why do you need that?
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. But why do you need that? Why can't you play a game with no clerics?
Or all clerics.
Or all clerics. But
all clerics.
It's called the healing by damage. You have an extra wizard in there. You have an extra fighter in there that can put out the extra damage, so you don't need the healing. I'm not saying it's perfect. What I'm saying is it's all viable. That's the word that people need to understand is viable. If it's not viable, then I agree with you. If it is viable and can be done, now can the game master say, look, man, I'm going to have you fighting some powerful stuff. You're going to need a wizard. You're going to need, whatever. Look, give me the characters you want me to play then. Fine. We'll do it. We'll do it that way.
That's when they configure things so that we need you in order for this adventure today to be successful. Somebody in the party needs to be able to cast pass wall.
Sure.
And if you can't, well, you're not going to be successful.
That's when you sneak the item and hope they take it.
Yeah. But I think it's poor design. I think a better way is to make sure that there's 2 or 3 ways for you to be successful, at least. And then
people get angry with me when I play a cleric, at least at first, because I don't take healing spells a lot of times, or I'll take 1 healing spell, and that's it. Oh my God, your job's heal bot. Nope, that's not how I'm playing it.
Low level.
That's how a lot of it was in the games. I'm not talking about my current.
No, I became a buff bot. Buff bot and Sanctuary.
Buffs are much better, especially at low level, because you'd only have so many spells, and you're fairly good at fighting as a cleric, so you might as well do that most of the time.
Right.
especially at low levels. So yeah.
I'm not adverse of taking like 2 days to heal. It's okay. We can sit and rest. We can go back to town. Deal with it.
As long as there's not something like, okay, so you're in the dungeon and the door to the dungeon is sealed now, so tough on you. I mean, stuff like that can happen. Or you step through a portal and there's a blue dragon there.
That is definitely a fuck my life moment.
So I think we hit the ways to decommify, as in take the commie out. You have to you don't necessarily have to have race class restrictions, but you have to. The races need to be distinct somehow.
Well, the whole commie concept to me was the fact that everybody could do everything.
Right.
That somehow has to. What the hell's going on? My Steam just opened up. That somehow has to be removed. And the only way I can see to do that is through the either level limitations or race class limitations, which I think are necessary to a Dungeons & Dragons game.
Yeah, so if you do that, you probably take the commie right out. And this will bring you one step closer.
You're gonna wash that commie right out of my hair.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to try to somehow work a helicopter into the live stream, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do that. That's everybody understands that meme?
Yes.
With the helicopter?
I'm not sure I do.
Well, it's not from a very good place, but a dictator, when he took over a particular country, he invited all the commies to leave by dropping them out of a helicopter.
Oh.
So
Cuba? I actually didn't know that. Okay.
I don't remember where, but
you educated me.
So the meme on the internet is when someone starts, kind of exposes himself as a commie, you throw a helicopter up.
Okay. Okay.
I kind of like that idea. I want a helicopter now.
Pinochet. That's the guy's name. I'm a Christian. I don't believe in just murdering people, even if just for being a commie. But if we're all, minding our own business and some dude comes up here and say, we should do some commie stuff all of a sudden, you want to throw him in a helicopter. That's for sure.
If he says it in a proper Russian accent, I might give him a pass.
Says what?
The commie. He just says commie. Just,
Let's start doing commie stuff.
Communiski.
I have gotten this joke. Everybody will get it.
Right. Yeah. Anyways,
you raised him correct.
Yeah, you did a good job, Shadow and Son. You really did.
Most kids these days think sharing is caring. Well, sharing is caring, but they think socialism is sharing, and that communism is a better way to do it. So
they apparently learn that communism is good because even though it's impossible to obtain, like to actually attain true, oh my God, utopian communism, it's the attempt. We have to always strive for it. And that's why a lot of them, instead of saying, what we got is pretty good, they're like, no, you always got to strive to be that other thing that we can't have. Otherwise, if you're not trying for that, then you're not a good human. Yeah. I learned that from my nephew this week.
Yeah. And how many more hundreds of millions of people do we have to burn through to show you're wrong?
Right.
I mean, we keep trying on people. Maybe we can try it in a lab somewhere so people aren't hurt.
Oh, communism works in very small numbers. Communism works, and it works well.
When they're all voluntarily working together and they're not trying to kill each other, sure.
Well, that's not communism. That's totalitarianism. But communism can't work on a grand scale because sooner or later you're going to have one person. That's all it takes. Yeah. One person to ruin it. And when that one person ruins it, it's done.
Right. Yeah. So the only way to ensure that one person does it is to force him to. That's why the totalitarian thing comes along, is because we have to force everybody to be communist.
And then it's not communism anymore.
Not really. But the same thing with socialism. You gotta force it. Someone has to force it top down. And so why even do
it? You guys, we actually did try communism here in the States. It was back in 2020 in a place called Seattle. And they tried it so hard, they did it so well that within 2 days, they're begging for food to be shipped in and Mao would have been so proud of their efforts and their results. They were starving. They had rooftop gardens that were pretty ineffective. I loved it.
I think, were they really doing communism, or were they just,
No.
being?
That's not communism.
I think they just were. Let's kick the police out, and everybody's going to do their own thing. Which
They were
is
they were
okay.
totalitarianism. If you watch, they kicked people who lived in the area out if they weren't showing proper IDs. They were what we think of as Soviet or Nazi style fascist communists. That's what they were, but that isn't communism.
Glory to Olestolska. That's a Papers, Please thing. Some of you won't get it. Sorry.
I haven't played that game since it came out.
I love that game.
Nope.
No, I would say no.
I go to work for me and my family, not you and your family. I couldn't care less. And I don't expect you to care about me or my family.
If you want to volunteer on it, there's actual health insurance here in the States where it's a Christian-based health care, and you all
health sharing.
Yeah, it's health sharing.
Yep.
It's
They're
good
on the
stuff.
freaking radio all the time.
But it's good stuff. It's good. It's a good stuff.
That's how it's done right.
But that's not even socialism, though. That's people pooling their resources voluntarily.
Voluntarily,
in a particular for a particular purpose. They're not all pulling all their money together and passing out parcels to everybody and saying, "Okay, be good communist now."
And as somebody who's lived in multiple countries that has socialized healthcare, I can tell you that the best healthcare still comes from the private sector in both of them. And did they love Americans because we had insurance. So I got very good healthcare in both Japan and Germany.
American soldiers are still the highest way to deport other countries' hot ladies. I'm just going to say that. American GIs do it the best.
I got nothing. I am the only person in this.
Yeah, we got way off topic.
Yep. I'm like, yep.
Agreed, Shadow Son. An armed society is a polite society.
All right. So my intention here is just to show that you don't. Third edition can be changed in ways that doesn't break that system, and I think this decommifying it will make it more palatable. Not necessarily everybody should run out and do it. It's more of a thought exercise, and I think more from the point of view of why it was good to have a humanocentric game in the first place. Not necessarily that every game should be that way, but that it made D&D distinct. It had its own flavor, its own charm. And when third edition came along and kicked that in the nuts and took its lunch, it destroyed that part of D&D and made it just a homogenous fantasy game number 57.
Yep. And
Max,
did
you write that script?
No, I don't say homogenous game. I say generic game. So he did that on his own. The thing is like in 5th edition, I didn't, but a friend of mine from Legion of Myth tried running a 5th edition game that used what he called 5th edition game with 2nd edition sensibilities. So race class limitations based on what 2nd edition said, et cetera, et cetera. And his players threw a conniption.
Because they were expecting the full Monty.
Because they absolutely didn't understand. They thought it was stupid that there are race class limitations. They thought that the fact that D&D had it in the past was just an old trope that needs to be thrown out, et cetera, et cetera. And,
wow, numbers mean.
I don't mind the concept of race.
That's heathen, dog.
Race restrictions, like only certain races can play certain classes. But that's probably about as far as I go on that one.
Well, there's a lot of old 3.0 products, and I know Max just was like, God damn it. There's a lot of old 3.0 products that they came out. Green Ronin had a bunch of books that were race-centric, and their prestige classes in back naturally had restrictions. You could not be a human and be an elven ranger or an elven archer.
Or arcane archer, yeah.
Yeah, they
But here's the thing, and this is the point that I guess maybe I didn't explain this, and you guys can beat me up over this if you want. I'm trying to stay away from third-party books. I'm trying to talk about the core game. So
I think that was actually core book.
No, Green Ronin can't make a core book. Green Ronin doesn't make core.
No. Core book is Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master Guide, Monster Manual.
Those are it.
I'm thinking 3.5. I thought 3.5 had Arcane Archer in it, but you could only be an elf to be an Arcane Archer as a prestige class.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember.
But I remember in the Dungeon Master Guide, they talked about it at length, where you may want to have your campaign world not have any healers except for human healers. They might not allow clerics of a non-human variety in this world. Sorcerers might be something that has a negative connotation because of the guilds that the wizards have brainwashed the public with. And so you have all of these suggestions in the 3.0 DMG, which nobody ever read. And it's been the same way since first edition. Nobody reads the DMG. Nobody reads the DMG. Nobody reads the DMG.
Yeah, I think Umbree's right here. I think the prestige classes were initially presented in the DMG, not the Player's Handbook.
They were.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I remember it being brought
Those
up.
in the know, is this 3.0 or 3.5? I don't know.
That's 3.0.
That's
Oh,
3.0.
okay.
Written by Monty Cook. That's got a lot of Ptolus in it. Drink, fuckers!
I'm not drinking from Monty Cook ever.
I liked his work with the
Havoc Press.
Arcana Evolved, Mahavik Press. That was all good stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
It was very distinctive.
What were you saying about Arcane Archer?
Arcane Archers and the requirements could only be played by elves.
Elf or half elf?
Half or elf, yeah, but it had to be an elf. And who the hell wants to be a half elf?
Every player in my game.
I'm not half elf. Fuck that. It's all or nothing, baby.
I have a lot of players that's all they want to do. They want to be half elves. They get that skilled feat and they go to town.
Yeah, no, well, most of the campaigns I've been in, I've only played human.
Yeah.
For reasons that are,
So how is it that there are racial limitations here, but not? Never mind. I don't.
Because those were the prestige classes were, I think, really prestige classes were kind of an afterthought.
They were an optional thing, to be sure.
Right. They were supposed to just add a little flavor to a campaign world. They weren't supposed to be core to the game.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you could run
Every group I played in used them like they're, again, that's why I use the term Lego characters, because everybody made Lego characters, and it didn't matter if I was playing in Japan or I was playing in the States. Everybody was using them.
Yeah, so that philosophy lasted about as long as 3.0 lasted, or maybe even shorter. Soon in the 3rd edition run, prestige classes were made generically and for specific character purpose. That was all another thing that they said they weren't supposed to be for. You weren't supposed to make a prestige class to correct a flaw that you thought was in the game. It was only supposed to be flavor. Like Knights of Solamnia could be a prestige class because that's very particular to Kryn. You could conceive of it being that, and then but they made something called I can't remember. Basically, you could be a cleric and a wizard.
Right.
You had both cleric and wizard spells. You few levels in cleric, few levels in wizard. Pick up this prestige class, and then you could advance both spell casting, casting from both classes, but only level up in one class. And you wouldn't get anything else besides that, practically. But and is kind of gimpy until double-digit levels. But
what I saw specifically, I put the books back, but what I saw specifically happen where people were taking like one of this, one of that, going back to the original one, then taking 2 levels of this other thing, then getting 6 levels of this one because I need this one ability, and then going back to my original class again. It's like all this bouncing around, mixing and matching nonsense was just Hong Kong. There you go. Is that still going on?
There's some of it going on here, but they've decided not to drive all the way to DC and get perhaps.
I heard they shut down DC or blocked DC or something.
I don't remember. I haven't heard anything in particular in a few days. But
my buddy Stevens got it on his streams, and he's got people that they're broadcasting from their semi trucks. Ted Cruz did a ride along around DC Beltway the other day. It was pretty impressive. It looked like it was about 30 miles of semi trucks jam
All
it
right.
up with the belt.
Probably for a different stream.
Sorry.
But yeah. So the intent, though, was for this to kind of kick off a series of talks about this kind of thing, the things that were wrong about third edition that made it different from D&D, and how you could maybe still play it, but correct them, or just have the thought processes, and those could show us why it was wrong. So what was wrong about the cookie cutter approach of third edition with races and classes and stuff like that? It homogenized the game and made it less interesting.
Well, when you say wrong, because this is one of the things that I'll backtrack on, I'll say that as a game, generic game number 14233, it's not a bad game.
Right.
It's just that there's one part of it that makes it.
Yeah. There's the thing that they went a step. So you can, if I owned the D&D IP before third edition happened, and I made third edition, it would be different from third edition. Right. Gotcha. There's a couple of steps. There's a step too far, and third edition took probably 15 of them. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's a way to do it, and I think Palladium is the way to do it. So Palladium made some tiny incremental changes over the very long span of its production. And then when they diverged more from it, they made world books that diverged from it. Instead of
some better than others.
Some better than others.
We have a guy named Violence Solves Everything. I don't know if he watches Gatekeepers at all, but he's huge. He loves first edition Palladium. He's always going first edition. I don't see that much of a difference between first and second edition, other than there's a lot of bloat, but it isn't like, this compared to AD&D.
Right.
I mean, you can still generically play the same stuff. I know there are some changes. Again, there's just nuances, but there comes a point when it's not the same game anymore. And that's my issue, is that basic to first edition, you can still feel it's the same game. You can run the same modules with very little, sometimes no tweaks. Second edition, same thing. You can run the same modules with very few or no tweaks. Try to do that with a third edition module.
Right.
If you can't run the same modules without just maybe a minor hit die tweak or something, if you have to completely reformat, then it's not the same game.
Right. Even 3035 had that issue. There were things that made them not backwards compatible.
Really, between the two?
I
didn't know that.
Okay. One spell. Haste.
Okay.
I mean, and that's just one example. Well, how about the spell casting? So in between 3.0 and 3.5, they were initially only going to correct like half a dozen spells. But they said, well, since we're going to do it, we might as well minorly change almost every spell.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that, because I didn't play 3.0 that much. I played it a little bit, but I never ran it either. Right.
So the backwards, then that's an advantage for a game like what were we just talking about before third edition? The name just jumped out of my head.
Palladium?
Right. Palladium is very compatible, whereas up to second edition, compatible. After, not. Fourth edition, not. Fifth edition, not compatible. Only in the very high level conceptual way. You can take the concept of a module, import it, but you can't take anything else really.
Right. I mean, you can't run it as is per se with the same monster stat blocks and.
Right, because it's impossible. But with second edition and previous, it's not very hard to do.
There is a lot of. Go for it.
Go ahead, bud.
There is an argument in philosophy. I can't exactly remember the name of it, but it's talking about boat. You have a boat, and one of the timbers on the boat is bad, so you replace it. Basically, the argument breaks down to how many pieces of wood or parts of the boat do you take off and replace goes from being the original boat to the new boat.
If you're not changing the shape at all, that's the thing, is to change the shape and everything.
It's a new boat. If you replace all the pieces on the boat, it's a new boat.
But if you replace an outboard motor with a nuclear powered engine, then it's a different thing. If you
Right.
replace a wooden hull with an ironclad hull and no sails because you have the nuclear energy, well, you got a different thing there.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I bring this up when it comes to D&D versus first edition to 5e. 60, maybe 40% of the original game is still being held up in fifth
No,
edition.
not at all.
Hold on, hear me out. It's still a D20, it's still a D20 system.
So is Palladium.
I'm talking about D&D. I'm not talking about
I know,
all the
but I'm going to do what I just did a little bit ago. I'm going to show you that obviously Palladium's Dungeons and Dragons then too.
It in the literature point of view, it's still made out of Faerun. Faerun is as D&D.
Faerun is just a setting. It's Forgotten Realms.
Forgotten Realms, but it is you don't
the
have
original
it.
D&D is, well, I shouldn't say the original, but AD&D was Greyhawk. Second edition was Greyhawk. Basic was Mystara, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but that's only potential. I mean, Mystara was in Rules Compendium, and elements of Greyhawk were in the Player's Handbook with the names of spells, spellcasters, and all that. But it's very light touch.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to make sure I don't sound like an idiot. So I am skirting this line really, really close. But as I was saying, there's 20%. I'll go down to 20%. There's 20% of the original first edition that is still being held up in fifth edition. So it's still
we roll D20s and it has elves.
No, it still has the same. It has the same gods. It has.
It does it?
Yeah, fifth edition has.
What gods does it have? Name a couple of them.
Oh, fifth edition one. It has Tiamat, which is technically not a god, but that's besides the point. Bahamut.
Okay.
Bahamut, Glittergold.
Garl Glittergold?
Yes.
Glittergold, yeah.
This is from 3.5 to 5. I can't really speak on second edition or first edition.
The thing is, Deities and Demigods book, but you didn't have to use all of those. Those were basically like a monster compendium. You used which ones you wanted.
Morden, the Dwarven god. Dwarvens have like 7 or 8 gods.
Clangadin, yeah.
Yeah. Then you have the elf god. Then you have.
Okay, let's arbitrarily say for a moment that the pantheons are the same if you use the pantheons.
Right.
Okay. So we got a D20.
Uses it.
We got D20. We got a pantheon, and we've got elves and halflings. All right.
Elves, monsters, because you can't use a Baylor in any other system because it's copyrighted. Not Baylor. Beholder.
It's just a monster. It's just a monster.
But there's still enough bolts and pieces to the original 3.5 to where it is now, where it is the same game.
Okay, so
using the argument of
Palladium, in Palladium, the same Cthulhu gods that existed in AD&D First Edition exist in Palladium. I roll a D20. I make skill checks just like D&D now, and the spells are way different, thank God.
Yeah,
but,
very different.
It is. What was it? There's one other that you said. Oh, and it has elves and dwarves and kobolds and the
races. I mean, the races all Pathfinder, D&D, Palladium. I've actually never really sat down to play Palladium. Griffs and all have their multitude of different races that all bounce off.
The point that I'm saying is you can't say that it's the same game. When, because then you'd have to say they're all the same, like MERP, Middle Earth role playing is the same game because as hobbits, they just call them something different. Let's use Earthdawn. Earthdawn has a lot of the same races, but that takes a trope that takes those tropes into completely different directions. But we're still rolling dice. No, we're not rolling D20s necessarily. We're still rolling dice. We're still trying to beat a physical defense. We're still. Yeah, there you go.
They're not compatible. Fifth edition and third edition are not compatible.
Right.
Fifth edition and fourth edition are not compatible, and none of them are compatible with second edition and before. And honestly, BX is only partially compatible with old D&D, but much closer than it is with third. So third edition broke the compatibility issue, and for me, that is bad.
And I agree.
And since third edition, and I don't fault a company for wanting to make money,
right?
But
But we can complain. We're allowed as fans to complain about things. Somebody posted on my Discord today, is like, why are you even complaining about this stuff? Because as fans, you're allowed to complain about stuff when things change. Sometimes it works. As I posted on my Discord today, you know what? Sometimes fans complain and they get Family Guy brought back on the air. Sometimes fans complain and Firefly doesn't come back. It's just, you know.
We fucking tried.
But you get what
was a Jersey Girl or Jersey Boy is gonna fucking fist.
Stop tangenting. We're talking about the point that I'm making is we're allowed to complain about the especially when it's the 800-pound gorilla. This guy plays other games. No, I don't play 5th edition. I only own these 2 books because I was kind of cajoled and coerced into it. I have this book and Xanathar's Guide. That is it. Those are the only 2 books I own, and you can see I defaced them.
3.5 in Pathfinder First Edition are compatible. 3.0 in Pathfinder, I don't think are. There's a comment from
But Pathfinder's a different game.
But they are compatible. She's right. Umbry is correct. 3rd edition and Pathfinder 1.
I thought it was only 3.5.
But I don't bitch about Pathfinder because it's its own company, it's its own thing. That's like bitching about Palladium. I don't like what Palladium does. Well, then don't fucking play it. And that's the thing is people can complain about Palladium. If you're a fan of Palladium and like Violent, he doesn't really complain that much, but Violent Solves Everything doesn't like 2nd edition versus 1st edition of Palladium, and he makes sure to let us know. That's absolutely his right. He loves it. I understand when people don't like that I play 2nd edition AD&D because it took some of those tropes, especially with the splat, but even in the main book, took some of those D&D things that used to be, well, you cap out at 3rd level or 5th level, now made it 15th level. I get it. I don't argue with those people. I'm like, great, play 1st edition. I'm with you on that. I think you should. But all those things were still there, removed. That's my 2nd edition book, but they're removed in the later stuff, and that makes it not the same game. I'm admittedly an IP purist. I think IPs, when they change, use this, and this will be, then I'll shut up because I know I've been interrupting people. The Civilization series of computer games has a great model, and it's one of the reasons people still play it all these years later. 33% of the game stays exactly the same. 33% of the game is only tweaked marginally in order to fix some known issues. 33% of the game changes. Therefore, when you're playing the new one, it feels both new and similar at the same time. 3rd edition didn't do that. Just because you draw me some pretty pictures, I know this is a 5e book, but just because you draw me some pretty pictures and show me an elf does not make it the same game.
Right. And in fact, the only thing that a lot of that art does and high production value does is give you a $60 book that's going to take space on your shelf. I mean, it makes an expensive book. If I was going to make one, I think what I would want to do is have a version of it that was cheap, like in the old days, $20. So $60 gets you the whole game instead of $60 gets you a third of the game. If you can even do that.
Production quality, probably. I don't know.
Right.
I would actually rather not have art in it. I would much rather have like just diagrams showing charge distance, things like that.
Yeah, maybe a decent cover, and then interior art's black and white, and then something that supports what you're talking about, but only in a small way.
Oh my! Oh,
so a lot of them have too much art.
I was about to say, if somebody took the time and made a D&D book and just redid it from front to back. I'm talking about the book, not anything in the book, but just the book, and then made it look like the book of the Kells with all the little artwork on the side and everything with the fantasy. I think that'd be cool as fuck. But that's just me. I like visual things. I'm a visual person.
Art goes two ways with me. There's 2 times when I will look at art, or 3 times. Sorry, I have 3 games where if I look at the art, I'm like, this is fantastic, and it needs to be in the game. Oh, and because what it does, and I'm gonna pull one of them out here just in a second after I'm done talking. Well, you guys are talking to show some of it off because it sets the tone for the game. And the 3 games are this: AD&D 2nd edition with Elmore, Caldwell, Parkinson, and Easley art in there. Fucking amazing. Set the standard for how that should be done. Number 2, Bessem, Big Eye Small Mouth, because it has some amazing. If you don't like some of the anime stuff is typical anime, but some of it is just absolutely fantastic art in there. These multi-page spreads, and it's just. And I'm not even an anime guy. It looks fantastic. The other one I'm going to show you guys in a second is Degenesis. The art in that book is just absolutely incredible and sets the tone for the worlds. Outside of those three, I hate Earthdawn art. I think it's the most I don't know why they keep hiring Lubenstein. He's great for refrigerator art, but he's not good for a game book. And some other companies have gone that route as well. So I agree with the people where it's like art is kind of and for the most part, yeah, I'm with you on that. But there are some times when the art absolutely shapes it. I'm going to show Degenesis off in just a second here.
Yeah, I think a great place for the tone to be set is the cover, and maybe a couple of interior panels, and yeah, you could even do it. You could even do it in a subtle way, in the presentation. How the you could have something subtle in the margins or in the background on the pages that gives some tone away. That's fine too.
I was just about to get you demonetized.
Yeah. Were you going to show some nudies?
Yeah, I opened right out to it.
That's pretty cool.
I think certain books though, I think Monster Manual, I think there's gonna be a bigger book, but I think every monster should have its own picture.
Well, for Monster Manual, you want the pictures. You want a picture of the monster.
Or the Player's Handbook is really what I'm talking about. The Player's Book doesn't need a whole lot of art in it.
Yeah, Player's Handbook and a few other books in there. No, it doesn't need.
That's very evocative.
But I think the Monster Manual or any book that describes how the world around them, like, well, if your characters are in this part, this is what this civilization looks like. Nice compound.
So Genesis went away, didn't it?
Well, yeah, for physical copies, you can still get all the PDFs.
Oh, okay.
See, I just want to write the book that I'm writing. I'm going to have a bunch of hyperlinks going straight to the Frank Frazetta website. There you go.
Well, look what For Golden Glory did. For Golden Glory just took actual old art that's not copywritten. Yeah, stuff that you'd find in museums, and apparently a lot of people had heartburn over that, but.
Well, yeah, it's very smart, I think. And a Clearsquare Ringmail suggests that as well.
Ooh, nice Taylor over there. He when Taylor over at Clearsquare Ringmail, he also has a blog, and he will post art in the blog.
He's got a good blog.
Yeah, he reuses what's the word for when there's no copyright or anything like that.
Copyright free, royalty free,
public access, not public access,
public domain,
public domain. Yeah, anything in the public domain, and it's smart.
Go hit the Wayback Machine, go get a time machine or whatever, and hire the art crew from any of the old heavy metal magazines from the early '90s and late '80s, and have them do D&D books. I think would be cool.
I wouldn't want that for a D&D style. Me personally, I wouldn't. But
some of it's
go ahead.
It's good for heavy metal.
Yeah.
Because heavy metal has a particular feel.
Yeah.
But the Elmore et al. That Max is talking about from the second edition era, especially a lot of the Dragon magazine art.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and it has it's very evocative for D&D and its flavor. And now we've got whoever's doing the art currently.
Oh yeah,
it's My Little Pony.
Well, hell, I joked around with Max once. There's a picture in this book, that it literally looks at it like it came right out of a Disney movie, because you have this guy fighting the beast, and I can't remember the French asshat's name, and it literally looks like it came out of a Disney movie. I'm like, really? That's some not lazy writing, but some lazy ass drawing.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think a good art-free version. All these guys could do well with. A lot of us would buy their books, especially if they were also woke-free.
I'm glad you told me that, because then maybe I won't spend money on art.
Now I'm looking for my old.
Or you have options. You can have options.
Like I said, it depends on his plan. Like I said, I'm a visual person. When I'm going through this book or any handbook, I like to know, have what the weapons look like, or have little pictures or whatever to decide what things are supposed to look like. But that's me.
Yeah, like I said, I think you could do well with more subtle inclusions and margins and behind the text, especially with weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows what a sword looks like, but if, let's say,
but do you know what a falchion is versus a scimitar?
There's that, and then what about stuff that's women?
Women of Fantasy 1994 TSR issued calendar.
So
That
yeah,
nuts.
if you had, if you could commission some people to lend a particular distinction to a game through swords or armor, things like cultural items, and you could put them in places in the book.
Forbidden Lands.
Yeah.
Forbidden Lands does that. It has elven swords, orcs, and shows the difference in.
Right, and have different, and even not just weapons. You could have like pottery. This is what elven pottery looks like, and just have a place like in the equipment section, and even not even have a pot in the list of things you can buy, but it could lend a little bit of atmosphere to the book without being over.
Yeah.
Because I know when I first got, I don't know what, it might have been the Player's Handbook for 5th edition that my wife got me, and I didn't really want it, but she said, "Here you go, happy birthday."
Thanks, dear.
But I was flipping through it, and I'm like, this is one of the worst drawn halflings. There's a halfling like dancing around.
Oh yeah, the bard halfling. I was just looking at that a second ago.
Worst halfling I've ever seen. And I'm like, oh, you paid somebody and they gave you this, and then you all decided, yeah, we're going to put this in our book.
I don't even know what style that is. I mean,
third grader. That's the style. Third grader.
Third grader. I mean, it's a halfling, and
awful.
Well, there's two halflings.
There's halfling.
There's this guy, which I don't mind.
He's okay.
He's okay. Yeah, I get that.
There's a female halfling in there, bard or whatever. If I'm remembering correctly, it's really bad.
Yeah, it's not.
I think all the like that was one of the first turnoffs for me for 3rd edition, was because the fact that they still had on payroll, or at least ability to pay, all those. This is before Parkinson died, if I remember correctly. Had all those artists, and they went with that weird freaking art style that kind of started with Planescape, and I'm like, I don't understand why people like it.
Well, this is a picture of the. When I first saw this picture, it's the Barbarian off 5e, right? And I think, oh, that's an interesting fighter picture. I like that as a fighter picture. Then I read him like, that's a barbarian. I'm like, that doesn't look like a barbarian. Because when I think of barbarian, I think of fucking Conan, because I'm from the fucking 80s. Conan's wear loincloth and not much else.
Let's see. Otherworld Minis is something I want to bring up too. Thank you, Darren. I saw some of their minis. They're metal, and they're not highly priced, and they look pretty good.
I look out. I have a friend who has a 3D printer and likes me. So all my figs are right now are pretty much covered. I just have to prime them, paint them, and okay, does that look all right, or did I shit the bed?
Oh, hey,
I have a picture for you coming up here, Connell.
Bruce, have you taken a look at the Otherworld minis?
Yeah, they're all like first ed and basic inspired miniatures.
Yeah, they're good looking.
Like
good looking stuff.
Made them.
I'll check them out. I mean,
you're gonna like lose all the grays in your hair when you look at them, Connell, because you're too young for this shit.
Shit, man, I wish. Anyways,
this is how every sorcerer should look.
I'll get, the one from Pathfinder is not that far off for sorcerer.
I'm not gonna lie, as a 16-year-old, that page probably got used a couple of times.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not the only one that classes it up.
And that's her adventuring gear too.
Right. Look, there's nothing wrong with Red Sonja.
My daughter.
It was a crap movie.
I love my daughter to death, and I'm getting her to play fantasy games. She's played Skyrim, and a bunch of other ones. I'm trying to get her to do D&D, and she always bitches about the female armor. It's like, you're a guy. I'm like, yeah. So as a male character, you get to wear all this armor. I'm like, yeah. As a female character, I get a chain bikini and a thong. I'm like, you
If
don't
you
even know what
want.
a thong is.
Okay, I'm not going to recommend past the 3rd season, but I would say that you need to watch on Amazon Prime The Expanse seasons 1 through 3.
Yeah.
And have your daughter pay close attention to Bobby. Bobby Draper is a badass, and she wears a lot of armor.
Is Expanse when it starts out with the in space? The chick from that Western sheriff Western.
Nope.
I like The Expanse. I know some people called it woke, but a lot of sci-fi is woke because that's just kind of how sci-fi goes.
Yep.
Oh God! One of my friends.
Is that the Martian where there's Martians? Where the Mars?
Yeah.
Is that The Expanse with Mars?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'm thinking of something else.
Speaking of drawing and fantasies and whatnot, this goes into the comic book. A guy I game with on Tuesday was bitching that the X-Men comics are too woke. I'm like, really? They've always been woke. That's what the X-Men.
No, they have. Nope. You don't want to go there because I'll get my comic book guy on here and he'll destroy you on that one. Like they've not always been woke like that. Go watch his last few episodes from just a couple of years ago before it even got crazy and how they did X of this and X of that and just totally turned X-Men into villains. And I don't know anything about comics, but I got that from. Yeah. But here's the difference between Bobby Draper and the picture I showed: science fiction, fantasy,
yeah. I used to have a calendar. It was a fantasy calendar, and it was a really famous artist who did he worked with everybody, heavy metal, but his thing wasn't that far off from the picture you showed. It was the same style, and it was a calendar for like 1995 or something like that.
I wanted that calendar. It was 1994 Women of Fantasy. This was one of the months. Okay.
Yeah. I got as a Christmas present, not knowing what the fuck it was. That was right after, what was it? My aunt took me to go see Cool World, thinking it was going to be a kid safe.
It looks a little like Vallejo, but I think wasn't that Frazetta?
No, that's not Frazetta. Women of Fantasy was not Frazetta.
Was that Vallejo?
You had Rom. I don't know if Vallejo was involved at the time, but it was a lot of Clyde Caldwell and Jeff Easley stuff.
Yeah, as I said, that looks like the normal. That doesn't look like because Vallejo wasn't he the one that put his wife in everything?
Yeah, that was Brom.
That's Brom.
Brom did all the Dark Sun stuff, and his wife was a powerlifter or bodybuilder at the time.
I thought Vallejo Frazetta. I was pretty sure Vallejo put his wife in like almost all the female images were his wife, but I could be wrong.
Might be.
I think I started an argument in chat.
Oh, well, comics are a hot item. I mean, people have a lot of opinions. And for me, 2010 is probably about right. I remember reading, I like Doctor Strange. And I can't remember when it was really. But all of a sudden, they wanted him to start talking dumb. They called it colloquial because they wanted him to be more identifiable by the regular folk because his Doctor Strange sales were flagging, not because he spoke with lots of syllables, but because the stories weren't very good.
That's fair. Yeah,
they try weird stuff like, well, they'll kill somebody and then they'll bring him back and they'll do it again and bring him back and do it again.
Yeah, that was one of Garthon's problems. Was like every month was a new issue one.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Or you have people with 50 million titles. And just how do you mesh it all together?
Pick up a Spider-Man comic that Jay Jansen is featured in Heavenly, and don't read the comic book. Don't read the comic book at all. Just read what Jay Jansen has to say, and the amount of words that they put in one bubble when it comes to him is amazing. It's literature porn when it comes to his dialect. So.
I don't read comic books, so
yeah.
I stopped. I think I did stop reading comic books roughly around 2000, and 2010 is probably when I got off the boat myself. But comic books was always I don't want to read that. Give me something with pictures.
I always thought people wearing spandex and fighting people was dumb. So
It was
Not for everybody.
His wife is
no,
doing
right,
well.
right. I mean, no, I don't care that it exists. I just didn't think that. I did collect a couple comics. I think I taught. Well, I didn't collect. I had a couple of comic series. I had Elf Quest at one point. Those are all gone now. I don't know what happened. All my military PCS moves, but I had 1 through 30, and then the Blue Mountain or Blue Ridge or whatever the hell it was called. I had the what's the don't do drugs from Nancy Reagan.
Yeah.
I remember it had angel dust in it, and now I have a bunch of comic. Well, not a bunch, but I have some Comicsgate stuff, but you can't see it.
You know, I mean this is a joke, and I always thought it was funny as hell when Big Bang Theory came out when it was popular. One of the characters wanted Stan Lee to sign a Batman comic, even though Stan Lee had absolutely nothing to do with Batman. I always thought that was the best idea ever, just to fuck with people. Because I can't get I can't get Stan Lee to sign anything anymore either. But Bob Kane's been dead for years. But to have a Batman comic, even a recent Batman comic with Stan the fucking Man Lee's signature on it, I think it's fucking hilarious.
Max has been to Amsterdam, clearly. Yes, I've been to Amsterdam. Why does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, that's a
I
tangent.
lived in Germany for 10 years. I went to a lot of places in Europe. So.
I like traveling. I think people should do more of it, but that's my opinion.
All right. Well, it seems like our topic has been played out.
Yeah.
What I would like to do is maybe explore other aspects that we could talk about and beat up on third edition in the future with. So I will think on that and for a future Gatekeepers segment where we can beat up third edition some more. I know Max will like that.
I mean, again, as a game, my only thing with third edition is people are like, it's just like your D&D. It's like, no, it's not.
It's not nothing, just like.
It's like, and you know, that's really my only thing about it is if it didn't say D&D on it, I might like it as a different type of game system. I wouldn't want my favorite game, which y'all know what it is, but I'm not drinking anymore. For somebody to call that Dungeons and Dragons, I wouldn't like.
What was that? Earth Dong, I think is your favorite game. Earth Dong.
Earth Donk.
Yeah.
I gotta really ask. Next week, we still have the 4 of us here. Seem to be the main 4 that show up for these. Want to know who wants to host? What's topic?
I want the next time I host, I want it to be a legitimate Gatekeepers topic, which to me means, I'm not saying this wasn't, but to me means a player / game master has a problem that person wants resolved, and us 4 have 4 different ways of resolving it, or maybe the same way, whatever. But not just talking about our theories of Dungeons and Dragons, but actually like, I have this situation. How do we handle it? It could be a bad player. It could be a type of monster. It could be I want to convert from second to third edition. Something. It could be anything. But I would doesn't even have to be D&D related. But that's what that's why I kind of pulled away from hosting some of these because. I would like it to be like we are helping somebody. I think today was an example of that.
Yeah, we have successfully come up with a method of removing the commie from third edition.
Yep.
Now, whether you want us to play it or not afterwards, that's a different story. But
yeah,
and we talked. And previously, what was the one I hosted? I think was the one of how to use old versions of D&D as your every game. Now we could do something the opposite. How to use a different game to become your D&D. I mean, I don't know. I think that's a little redundant, but
yeah. Right. There might be something there though.
Well, again, I think it could be redundant, but it's something we could have in our back pocket. But that's all I'm saying. Like whatever topics we talk about, I want to be able to talk with you guys. This is how I would handle it. Oh, this is how you would handle it. This is how chat handles it. Because we get a lot of great / weird comments in chat that I think would be absolutely useful to see how other people handle these situations. And that's what Gatekeepers was supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about we are game masters, dungeon masters for whatever systems we like. And, we want to, put some of our knowledge out there.
And this is also good for gatekeeping. Because if you put level limits and racial restrictions in, you're going to keep out a lot of the weirdos because they're going to be like, everybody's the same. And you don't want
let's be fair. You're the one that came up with the name.
It is. I am.
I love that.
It is mine. My name. Anyway.
Let's keep out the weirdos. Let's keep the communists out.
Yeah. I mean, they're okay living in California. Let them stay there.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Illinois. Sorry there, Connell.
So, Darren P., you have type your horror story up on the Gatekeepers Discord, and then we can discuss stuff like that.
Bad
And we'd be more
players.
than happy to show you
Oh,
the thing is,
to solve it.
I have like a 3-second comment for that though. Kick the player out. Okay, I'm done.
No. I have
This
psychological
basement.
horror we can do for the next 3 sessions. I've made players vomit at my table running Slumbering Czar. On the second night, on the second group I did going through there, little Greg, Paul, and Mike, all 3 of those gentlemen vomited when I started to describe the hag that has a couple of things that she likes to do. It's in her description. I took those things, which were at a 7 on the creepy chart, ratcheted up to 12.
See, that's what I like. That is something. I'm serious, and I mean this whole shit. That's yes.
And I made them vomit at different points throughout that game. As they were dealing with this hag for a half hour, I got them to vomit. It was great.
Okay, so here's a topic. Unique ways, not just what monsters do you use, but unique ways to use monsters or common monsters or something like that. You know, pick 3 things that you 3 creatures that you use that you think is just a very, very unique. Keith Dog's going to kill me for that one. But the unique ways of using these that nobody else does that still keeps it within the realm of, it's a hag, for example, in your case here. But how you utilize it differently. For me, like shadows are a big one. For some reason, I just use the description of shadows in what it says there, but I'm like the only person that I talk to I talk to myself, that uses them that way. Like I use them as assassins, as sneaky, as get you in the dark. They're not just like, oh, it's 2 shadows attack. 2 shadows can kill a pretty decent level party.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, especially when they're attacking from their shadows.
Tactically.
But that's the thing is so many people are like, oh, it's light. Why would a shadow stick around if you had light? If you had light, it's going to slide underneath that door and get the hell out of there. It's going to wait. Just like vampires. You should never be able to kill a vampire unless you come in totally prepared, because that thing's going to turn to gas and to bats. It's going to do whatever. It's cast spells. It's going to charm you. It's going to do whatever the hell it can do, and it's going to get out of there if it thinks it's going to lose. It's not stupid. It's a genius.
Right. And on that note, on the note of the vampire genius.
Thank you, Joe, for hosting tonight. I had a topic and was willing to go with that, but you have filled up almost 3 full hours.
Yes,
Oh,
almost.
Wow. Oh, crap.
Yes.
Well, we're supposed to go 2.
Well, we're supposed to go 2, but that's fine. That's fine. So let's go around. We'll start counterclockwise with Bruce. Shill your stuff quickly so we can get out of here.
I'm Bruce. If you subscribe to my channel, I can guarantee you will have some random streams, and every 3rd Saturday from here to the rest of the year, I will be running a Pathfinder game for some very unlucky people. Go ahead, Max.
Quickly, some words of wisdom. I don't always agree with Shadzar, but read his last comment on there. He's absolutely right on that one. Don't buy WotC crap. That's stupid. But both of them go together. But anyway, yeah. So you can find us at Legion of Myth, legionofmyth.tv, Legion of Myth on YouTube. I've got a Redbubble store where you can get tampons of the Coast shirts and other fine software, items like that. And of course, you can come to our Discord. I've been really bad about social media recently. Come to our Discord. That is where I will actually respond to you.
All right. My turn. All right. Tomorrow you'll find me and Mr. Handfist on Table Breakers, where we're talking about other D&D or Pathfinder or gaming aspects. I will have something out here by the end of this week that I'm happy with finally. And you can find me as a Cigar DM on YouTube. It's also, I think I placed it in somebody's Discord. I might not. If I haven't, I'll fix that. And my words of wisdom is: roll your dice in the dark and do your character sheet in the Quran.
All righty. So I am Joe from Biggus Geekus, as it says right underneath my chin. If you put Biggus Geekus in the search engine, you will find us. And everywhere you find your videos or your podcasts, we're both places. I also want to thank Bruce and Max and Cigar DM for being here tonight. I'm also going to thank Bruce because he made a donation to our podcast, but it came in right as we were leaving. So, and because I'm still new at all this stuff, I didn't have my Streamlabs stream up because no one ever donates. So it's not something that I put up when I'm doing this because it's just extra CPU for me to wait.
Bruce.
But thank you very much for your donation. And with that, for everyone here at Gatekeepers, have a good evening.